Okay, hi, I'm Dr. Rowan McCabe, and you're listening to Apostasy now. This is real. This is real. This is not real. And it's now it's real again. You don't know what's going to happen. Really? Almost professional looking. It's amazing. What made you spoil it, I tell you?
I think I might have been born to be on the internet, or something like that.
Glad to be back in your ear with another episode of Apostasy Now. This week we've got two guests. We've got Alison Tieman and we've got Straughan, both of the Honey Badgers Brigade fame. Now, if you don't know about this group, I'd point you in their direction. You can find them on YouTube very easily. They've also got their own website. And they've got a great deal of content that they put out, along with a great supporting group, all of which amounts to a strong offense against bad ideas, a number of types, going through the realms of both art and geek culture. We've got stuff that goes into gaming, as well as current events, news. They take a critical view of things and they have no problem expressing themselves very clearly. They each have their own areas of strength. And as you're going to hear, Skype was not quite treating us right. We had a delay and we were in 3 different locations. So I hope you'll bear with me. I'll clean it up as best I can because the content of the conversation is really good. Allison in particular was hit hard by an event that we'll go into about Calgary. Hard enough I felt bad kind of asking about it afterwards, but I'll let you listen to it and you can hear what she has to say about it. I believe that free speech is a critical pillar to our society, and I'm glad I share that in common with the Honey Badgers Brigade. Thanks for being on the show. I really enjoyed our talk, and let's get going. Here's another episode of Apostasy Now.
We die well, Tilk.
More than that, old friend. We die free.
Because I'm very much a skeptic. I'm more of a skeptic than I am an atheist. I mean, atheist is a conclusion based on my skepticism.
You'll have to come like a little child to the foot of the cross.
That attitude is what is responsible for the rise of atheism.
That's not what Islam is all about. Islam is peace.
What is the penalty for leaving the Muslim faith?
With the death penalty.
Thank you.
This is Apostasy Now.
For people to get the information correct before they start yapping.
Get ready to root for the bad guys.
Begins with E, evidence. All the evidence.
Actually, our last guest we just had was Dr. Randomercam.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. He was a lot quieter. Yeah, he's a lot quieter to talk to than he is on his videos.
Oh, he's such a mild person. He is so mild in person that and then you see him in these like spectacular, brilliant rants on YouTube, but in person he's just the sweetest, mildest human being you can imagine.
Well, it made sense to me immediately once he told me that he studied drama.
Oh, there you go. You know, he has, and of course he's very, very good at, you know, using that training for his own purposes. So, but
I might be getting a small amount of echo back.
Oh, you probably are. It's because I can't use my headphones.
Oh no?
Yeah, so I'm gonna mute whenever I'm not talking once we're actually recording.
Okay.
Well, essentially, so you're saying you're never gonna mute.
But essentially, what the issue is the jack on my computer is fucked, and I have never found a USB headphone set that will work on my MacBook Air. So, yeah.
Yeah, we were paying the butt.
The jack for my headphones. I plug my headphones in and it turns the external speaker and mic off, but it doesn't do anything.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
On the other hand, my old one was like 4 years old and I spilled wine on it. And that's when it, right?
Well, my older computer, since the time I was telling you about it, the one with the windows on it, my daughter puked on it in the back seat. And so that computer has been a lot less useful since then.
Oh man, like honestly, like I just when I was having a nap on the couch and I had a half full glass of wine on the table, on the coffee table next to the computer, and my boyfriend woke me up and I sat up and the pillow knocked over the glass of wine and I just was like, oh fuck.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Well, just today I had one of those moments. My daughter accidentally pulled with a towel. She pulled my cell phone into the sink while she was washing her hands and drying them off. Oh man. And I was surprised it didn't have much water in there.
You know what was really awful was I was back when I was writing fiction. I had written 8,000 words of essentially a battle scene where one of the main characters got like brutally killed in the most dramatic way, and then her lover avenged himself on her killers and essentially just like died in the most brutal. It was like the entirety of the movie Gladiator in 8,000 words. Right. Okay. And I'm like, I'm finishing writing this and I'm just sobbing. I'm actually sobbing.
Yeah.
Because these are two characters that I've like written. I've written like thousands and thousands of words about them and I'm like really attached to them and I'm killing them both off. And I'm just like, I'm bawling. And my 2-year-old at that time, my youngest, comes up and turns my fucking computer off. He pushes the colored button and I lost all of it, right? I lost all of it because this was before, you had autosave. You didn't have autosave back then. You had to actually push the little button to save, right?
Oh, no.
And, oh my God. And I looked at him, right? And here I am, tears streaming to my face. And I looked at him and I said, you will never do that again. That's all I said. And he never fucking touched the computer again.
It's a good thing for their sake. We love them so much.
So, all right.
All right. So I'll get into talking to you guys about all the work you guys have been doing. You've been very busy.
Oh, according to my boyfriend, I'm very, very lazy.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't really do much. But I think he's maybe a little bit biased because not everything I do is for him, so. But yeah, no, I've been doing a whole bunch of things. I went to Vancouver and did 2 speeches in Vancouver just in November, and I've did another one just in Edmonton just a week or so ago. So yeah, I've been busy doing things, and I actually have a couple of videos that I really need to get done that are outlining specific legal cases. Sort of the third installment of the Gregory Allen Elliott case that's going down in Toronto, and then there's another one involving
that's the Twitter one, right?
The Twitter harassment trial, yes. And then there's another video that I need to do involving a man in Norway who was falsely accused of rape. And that entire story is just like the most unbelievably, like you couldn't write a novel about it and make it believable, right? That just what this guy has gone through, and for what? He was a Lothario, right? He liked the ladies, right? He was a man from South America, right, who was studying in Norway, and he was very, very successful with the ladies, and it bit him in the ass, and spent 2 years in jail waiting a trial that never happened because they eventually dropped the charges.
What? Are you serious? 2 years waiting for it to start?
Yeah, waiting for the trial to start, and then they eventually dropped the charges.
That's amazing.
I believe I believe he is about to receive monetary compensation for that.
I should hope.
Yeah. So, but essentially, it was essentially a case of him. He was an unabashed, unapologetic ladies' man, and the ladies that he dallied with didn't like that. That he couldn't be. That when he said, "Yeah, no, you can buy sex and you can buy my attention, but you can't buy my love." Like, it was literally a case of a gigolo being accused of rape by the women who were paying him to have sex with him.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of Western developed nations in particular, the response is always take her seriously, but not just take her seriously, assume that she's telling the truth. And I hope that there's more and more of these cases that people, a lot of guys that are having their lives destroyed continue to sue, states, different departments in the government for accusing them and then treating them like they're guilty automatically without proper process.
I would agree. I really, really hope that there are more cases. There are lots of cases, over 50 lawsuits in the U.S. right now, over 50 legal actions, spurring from university kangaroo courts that expel young men on, a 50.01% burden of proof with no due process protections available and no evidence gathering, no right to subpoena on the part of the body that's doing it, no forensics being done, just essentially a panel of professors and faculty and even students who just get to sit in judgment over two people in a hearing, and what they say, and some of the guidance that they have, the one handbook, training manual that was given out at I believe it was the University of Michigan system was that if a man who is a defendant is angry or defensive, that's probably a sign of his guilt. But if he's logical and persuasive, that's probably also a sign of his guilt, right? And so essentially it's like this Kafka-esque thing where the training materials provided to the people who are making these decisions essentially say, no matter what he does, he's guilty. No matter what he says, no matter what he does, he's probably guilty.
Well, we're all in Canada, which is interesting for the show. It usually doesn't happen that way. I don't know what it's like in different provinces exactly, but I know, talking to a number of people that you guys probably know, Ontario is really bad. I have been kind of coming into all of this online. I first started out this show thinking that it would probably deal a lot with discussions around atheism or skepticism more specifically. But because of the skepticism, angle, the way my life was going, and same with my co-host who can't be here today, but when he is here, he's training for social work. We both, each on our own, felt dragged in more and more to this discussion about social ideology, specifically this kind of belief that feminism, the ideological feminism that they have this great truth, and the reality of this great truth is that it's destroying lives by the millions, just ruining people's lives. When I went into the court system myself, I was continually shocked, stage after stage, at how lethargic and biased and bigoted the system was, and how the things that they say that they're doing or the reasons they're doing it don't measure up at all with any kind of consistency to how they're behaving. It's right out of control. Now, I'm not being charged with anything criminal. I'm not facing any of that, at least until my ex decides to take it to that level, if she decides to, which is always a possibility when someone's angry.
Well, and when you have people, officials, social workers, and guardians ad litem and friends of the court encouraging you to do it, yes?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have no doubt. Like she's received the benefit of the doubt. She got automatic custody, benefit of the doubt. She's, I'm sure, gotten all kinds of, at least information, but probably financial aid of some kind, for, being a helpless woman or whatever. So just to give you an idea, in our case, there's actually a social worker the court brought in who brought out a report calling for my ex-wife to be psychologically evaluated to make sure she's safe, and highlighted police reports, school reports of incidences with my ex. This was almost 2 years ago. This report was filed with the court. By the time we get into court in the spring for our next, it's not even first trial, first assessment second assessment, which we already did one. I don't know why we're doing another one, but it's before any trial date starts. It'll be in the spring. We'll have been in the system 3.25 years. So just dragging it out like that is meant to, according to a number of legal professionals I've spoken to, it's intentionally designed to grind the man down.
Well, yeah, you look at the all of the data that feminists will hold up and say, well, here's this proof that men aren't discriminated against in family court. When they actually seek custody, they receive custody the majority of the time, right? Well, okay, but how do you define custody? Custody can be defined as sole physical custody, shared physical custody, 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It can be defined as like my ex had joint custody of his children from his previous marriage, which amounted to every other weekend that he got to have them, right? So custody means essentially it's like a meaningless term in the sense that they're trying to use it. When men seek custody, when men seek sole custody in contested cases, yes, they're awarded some custody most of the time, right? So when a man seeks sole physical custody, most of the time he'll get at least every other weekend. Wow, whoopee, woohoo,
Yeah.
right? Exact same studies that they use to show that the courts aren't biased against fathers actually show that when women seek sole physical custody, they are awarded it 65% more often than men are when men seek sole physical custody, right? And that's the men who actually they've already been advised by their lawyers. This is going to be a long and grueling process. This is going to cost you your fucking shirt. This is going to take you years, right? And you are going to be paying through the nose, and you're maybe even going to be paying for her legal expenses to fight you on this, right? Are you really willing to do it? And those men who have said, yes, I am willing to do it because my ex-wife is that unfit, right?
Yep.
They still are less likely to gain sole physical custody than the women.
Yeah,
It's absolutely insane. It's insane. It's insane.
I've had this discussion even with my own lawyer, though he represents me in court. He actually represents me outside of court. We've gotten a couple times sidetracked into philosophical discussions about what is or isn't a human rights violation and whether the court is actively engaged in violating human rights, which I believe it is. When I am, like I said, we've been separated now for almost 3 years. My ex only a few months ago started to even pretend she was looking for a job, and we're not old. She's been told by one judge, finally, you need to get a job, followed up by another judge that destroyed me financially with a decision on her behalf. So the message clearly is to her, just keep trying to sit on your butt and do nothing. This guy might have to pay for you the rest of his life. Why not take the chance? There's all.
And he has to pay for you because of wage gap.
Wage gap's right.
The justification is, of course.
Well, between her and I, there is a huge wage gap, as in I earn one, and she does not.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, they'll continue to justify this kind of bias towards women because, wage gap. Women are disenfranchised in society. No, actually, wage gap usually, a lot of cases throughout history, a wage gap is an indication of one particular group being enfranchised over another because they can earn less and still survive. And usually that's because the government is giving money from one group to give to the other group.
Yeah.
So I always find that argument funny, but I apologize for interrupting the concrete that you guys were discussing for something a little bit more abstract.
No, that's fine.
Oh, no, it's absolutely true though. Yeah. What Alison is saying is that when when you look at it and the justifications for favoring the mother, that as far as sole physical custody goes, a lot of it does have to do with the fact that the man is the wage earner and the woman is the wage receiver. And so, we should just keep that going, right? And I mean, I have known men. There's one who I very, very briefly dated, and I had a look at his divorce papers, and he thought, silly freaking rabbit, he thought that he would be free after 17 years. He was married to her for 15 years, and he was forced in his agreement, his divorce settlement, to pay her alimony for 17 years. Well, it was essentially he's supposed to pay her this amount of child support and this amount of alimony. Okay, but there's a clause in that divorce agreement saying that if there is any material change to anybody's income, then the agreement is null and void. It can be reopened, blah, 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 right? And he has to pay. So he's like, okay, my daughter is going to turn 18 pretty quick, and then I'm going to be free from, I'm only going to be paying alimony. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No, because then she's going to say, I've had a material financial change of circumstances, and now I want to reopen it, and I want to get the alimony increased to what the child support plus alimony was, right? And then when you hit that 17 years of being divorced where you think you're free, she's going to all of a sudden have zero money coming in, and she's going to say, oh, I've had a material financial change of circumstances, and I want to reopen the question of whether he still owes me money, right? And the whole time, the government, the provincial government in this province in BC, essentially looks at it and says alimony is supposed to be temporary. The spouse receiving alimony is supposed to be taking positive steps toward becoming self-sufficient, right? That's what they are. That's their obligation to do that. This woman has never been held as obligated to do that. She has always just been a passive recipient. And the one time he actually got her a job, right? A job that she could do. And she went to work, and she worked for like 5 months. And then he emailed her and said, he said, I'm having problems making my rent right now because times are hard and the business isn't doing as well as it was, and blah, blah, blah. And the very first thing she did was quit her job.
Yeah. That's exactly the type of attitude I'm talking about. If you're unfit, especially when it comes to, like, this is part of the confusion. Spousal support and child support are supposed to be two distinct issues, and they are continually mashed together in the court under the term "in the child's best interest," which is their moniker to excuse any behavior, no matter how wrong it is.
It absolutely is. It's essentially if even if you're paying the amount of child support that is applicable through the child support calculator, right?
Yeah.
If you're not paying the alimony, the kids are going to suffer, right? So essentially, it's basically a ticket for women, certain women, to never have to actually learn to be self-supporting.
Well, and I think that the public generally assumes, because they don't like to think about it, I think there's a big amount of assumption that goes on that, okay, in my case, we were married 4 years. We were together 3 of those 4, but we'll just say the full 4 years. And we have been separated for 3. I am still paying her spousal support. She doesn't suffer from a debilitating disease. She's tried to make excuses, and the court has said that none of this is relevant to not getting a job. And yet nothing's done on her side. The only thing that the court has continually done is made sure that they're taking my money and giving it to her. That's the only priority they seem to have had at any stage.
Yeah. No, they're not going to tell her to go get a job at Tim Hortons, making paninis and serving donuts and coffee. They're not going to tell her to do that.
Right.
Right. And frankly, like, as somebody who's working class, who worked as a cook and a waitress, and who was self-supporting and supporting 3 kids without child support, without government programs, without the subsidies, I would get the notices from the Alberta government and stuff like that saying you're eligible for this, you're eligible for that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I can pay for my own kids. No, it really disgusts me, the number of women who are willing to actually say, you know what, I just don't feel like working. Because as a waitress, as a fucking waitress working minimum wage, I was able to support 3 kids.
Well, I have known a couple of guys who they got someone pregnant when they were younger. So I'm going to be 39 this month. So my friends, when they were much younger, coming out of high school, early 20s, they got someone pregnant and they went on to welfare. They stopped what they were doing, went on welfare, and they never got threatened. I've already gotten 3 notices for prison. I'm not a criminal. I've done nothing wrong. I was paying the support that they eventually ordered me to pay on my own before the court process even started. I've tried and meet all these kind of expected obligations that I thought were already unreasonable, but I figured I might as well do it on my own because it's going to happen anyways. But as I had to change my job so I could have custody because I was an over-the-road truck driver, so my income dropped. You can't get the same wages when you're going to be there for your kids as a truck driver. And that chart that they like to talk about so much, about income that they're supposed to use for support, calculations was bypassed by him impugning me an income. That's what the judge calls it, impugning you with an income.
Oh yeah, no, you're imputed an income, and the judge did the exact same thing with my ex when we were doing our final negotiations, because there was no way that a judge would have signed off on our divorce without a child support order in place. And he wasn't working when we were divorcing. And the judge essentially said, we demanded, like, because my lawyer said no judge is going to actually ever agree to sign this document if there's no child support order. And the child support order has to be based on something. So what we're going to base it on is minimum wage, 35 hours a week, right? That's what we're going to base it on. And that's going to be his imputed income. And the judge will have to be satisfied with that. Now, my ex was capable of earning more, if all the planets aligned and his lucky stars were, in array above him. Yeah. He was capable of earning significantly more than that, but we essentially just went with the absolute lowest figure for what we considered to be an adult who was out working full time, right? Yeah. The absolute minimum of what that person could be expected to earn. And I have never actually taken any steps to collect that, because he's been having issues with his health, and he's been having all kinds of problems with just other things in his life, right, that have made his income, even when he's earning good money, it may only be for 2 or 3 months, and then it's nothing for 3 months, right? Then he's living off of what he managed to scrape together and save up while he was working. That's his life, right? And I'm not going to put him in a position where he has to actually face prison for being unable to sustain even just himself, right? That's absolutely absurd, and it's ridiculous. Not when I have the ability to look after my kids without external help and support.
Yeah,
right. Well, it's a ridiculous thing to do. Now, as an MRA, I'd love to see male victims of domestic violence receive the same care and assistance that female victims do. I'd like to see cases of common couple violence. Remember, they're typically reciprocal and usually sporadic or temporary. Be treated through counseling rather than sort of an enforcement of permanent family separation. I'd like to see men with children have better options than 1, risk a kidnapping charge, 2, leave the kids alone with a violent woman, or 3, stay and swallow the abuse. I'd like to see men who call the police for help have a better chance of being helped than arrested, instead of the other way around, like it is now. So, all of you feminists who complain that all MRAs do is attack feminism, you tell me, right? Just tell me, how do I make these things happen without attacking feminism? The ideology that applied patriarchy theory to domestic violence came up with the Duluth model, wrote it into law and policy, and now zealously guards it from any criticism. How do I convince lawmakers and bureaucrats and directors of agencies to abandon a model built on the ideologies of feminism without ever mentioning the word feminism, without ever uttering the words, feminists got it wrong?
This is why I say the court treats me like I'm subhuman. They would never send her, for any reason, they'd never send her a notice, do what we're telling you, or, we're going to send you to prison. They can send that to me. Just, I should probably give just enough details so you understand that the court decision that happened last spring went back to 2012's income when I was over the road, and I was almost never home. That's the most I've ever made, ever in my life. And they used that as a basis to compare to my new income, which is an hourly job, local, because I can't even afford my own car anymore. And he put my income into the middle, which is $50,000 a year. And I don't make nearly that. So the result has been that my parents give me shelter and help me eat while I continue to work as a professional driver and get told that I'm still more in debt than the maximum amount they can take off my check. So it's obviously completely insane. And you'd think that somewhere in the system there'd be an emergency lever at FRO, the organization in the government that's supposed to do all of this, all of the collections and threats. You'd think that if they could only take maximum half of your check, and they still weren't even getting near to what they're supposed to be supposedly taking, that they'd have like an alarm switch to pull. Like, hey, someone needs to come and review this situation before we end up destroying someone's life without any good reason. But no need to do that. I'm just a man.
Yeah. Oh, one of the most atrocious things that I ever read, and I forget what state it was, and God, I wish I'd kept the article bookmarked. It was about a state in the U.S. where they had decided to go from issuing paper checks to people who receive state benefits to direct deposits. And what happened in the wake of this decision, and it was saved the state billions of dollars a year, millions of dollars a year, right? What happened in the wake of this decision was that there were men who were on disability, right? Whose paper checks could be garnished up to 80%, right? To pay arrears on child support for children who were now 25, 27 years old, right? In one case, the dad was actually living with his adult son, being supported by him, right? By his adult son that he was repaying all this child support for, right? But the issue is that the government can only take 80% of a check, but it can take 100% of what's in your bank account, right? So essentially what these people on disability, what they had been doing was they would get their paper check, they would go to, not to a bank and deposit it, they would go to a check cashing place, and they would get their 20% of their disability benefits that the government left them with, that the child support agency allowed them to keep for themselves, and they would not be a complete and utter burden on their own children who this child support is supposedly going to benefit, right? They would do that. But now, because it's all going to be direct deposited, the government, the child support agency can take 100% of every dollar that hits their bank account. So they are left with nothing. So they are entirely living as financial burdens on their adult children who the government is claiming this child support money from them to pay for these children who are 27 years old, right? And none of that money's going to the children. None of that money's even going to the mothers. It's going to repay the state for benefits that were paid out to the mother in welfare and WIC and food stamps and programs and all kinds of stuff that she took advantage of when her kids were children, right?
Yeah.
It's all going to pay the state back for that.
Well, I mean, this is what I don't understand. I've had this discussion before where when it comes up with, my ex obviously has tried to tell the court her cry stories about she has a few problems, like her wrist gets sore. She hurt it at a job. And what was the other one? She has, it's an intestinal condition that can cause you problems at times.
Crohn's?
It's not
IBS.
It's not. It doesn't go by either of those. It's not as extreme as Crohn's. There's another term for it. And I know doctors have said that she has this problem, but it only acts up every
irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah, it goes under that general category, but there's a technical name for it. If I said it, you would recognize it, but for some reason it's not popping in my head. But anyways, it's not life-threatening, and it's not considered a disability by any stretch. There are times you might miss work because you're in pain, and you might need to take some time off. But it's, at any rate, the court recognized it, and they're like, that's, and here I am continually going to a job where I get sore shoulders, sore elbows, sore knees, sore feet, sore back. A lot of people do, and you know what we do? We work. I mean, when it gets too bad, you might need to take some time off, but yeah, she's just like, oh, I'm not perfectly comfortable all the time. I shouldn't have to work. And my response is...
No, that always struck me as weird.
My response is, if it's so bad that it's a disability, then she should apply to the government, and they'll give her disability. Otherwise, why should I pay you disability for something the government won't? This is insanity.
Agreed.
Agreed.
It's like there's a sense of entitlement that I've found among younger kids that I work with, right? That, I'm not going to do that because, I don't like doing that, right? Even though it's part of the job description. And I'm like, you realize that if you liked doing your work, you'd be paying us to do it, right?
Yeah.
we wouldn't be paying you. You'd be paying us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, my job that I do is not like my dream job. I do it because I'm a father, I care about my kid, and I would naturally expect that a parent who has a child would work, and to some extent we all sacrifice to care for our kids. It doesn't seem to me like a shocking revelation or an epiphany. It just seems kind of like what most people do.
Agreed. Allison, you're not talking much. Talk some more.
Well, the thing is that I don't have a heck of a lot specific to say about this. I mean, this is more your area of expertise. Mine is more theoretical systems and stuff.
It's connected. Let's move into something like that.
All right.
Okay.
Because they are connected.
Well,
I know that you guys,
of course,
you guys do take a stand for freedom of expression, and of course, there's a very famous incident there at Calgary. For anyone who's listening to my show who is living under a rock or just isn't in our circles, would you guys giving just a brief idea of what happened there?
Do you want me to, or do you want to, Karen?
No. You go ahead. It's your Calgary Expo was your baby. It was your comic. It was your 7 years of work. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I actually the story of this sort of starts earlier. I had been creating a comic book since about 2009, and I had been, even at that point in time, I had wanted to go to the Calgary Expo. So this has been sort of 7 years in the making to sell my comic. Life just sort of intervened. I had to finish my master's in design, and that took a lot of time because I have health issues that I have to manage. And when it was finally done, I ended up what ended up happening was when I graduated from university with my master's in design, I went into I sort of, that's irrelevant. That's all personal stuff. Anyway, it took me a while to get back to the idea of going to the Calgary Expo and selling my comic. And I started by going to a local anime convention. And that went okay. I got some interest from some pros in the comics industry who said that I had really good pacing, which was a great shot in the arm for confidence.
Yeah.
And then I decided to go to the Saskatoon. This was in 2014. I decided to go to the Saskatoon Expo and try my hand there, and I did pretty well. I actually what happened is I had a booth under Honey Badger Radio at the Sask Expo. I don't think that Karen actually knows this, and I brought up Sage Gerard to help me with sales, and just as a friend, and in a capacity as a friend. And so we did actually pretty well. I think we sold something like between 35 and 40 books, which was pretty good.
Nice.
I mean, at that time I was considering maybe downgrading to an artist alley booth, which would be less expensive, and probably the people in it would be more about supporting local artists and people doing their own little ventures. But I mean, I thought that was, and it was a pretty successful convention. I noticed one thing that was a little bit odd. There was at least one person who came up to the booth knowing that it was the Honey Badger Radio booth, and he was scared to death. And he was just, and I thought what, why are you, and he was saying, I'm a fan of yours, and can I have a pin? And he took a pin and he fled. I'm like,
weird.
Okay, that was a little weird. I didn't realize.
Were you waving around a machine gun or something?
No, not at all. We were just in our little corner off in the middle of nowhere, basically just talking to the people who walk by and selling comic books. And I actually talked to another comic book creator. I think it was rock paper sarcasm or something. Rock paper scissors. No,
shotgun.
Rock paper shotgun. Yes, thank you. How the heck do you know that? And I didn't.
I just.
Okay, don't worry, Karen.
They're a website, aren't they?
Yes, they're a website. And so I was talking to the guy behind that, the mastermind behind that, and we were talking about the politics that we talk about on Honey Badger Radio, and I think at that time we were talking a little bit about Gamergate, and he was like, I'm really mostly in social justice warrior type, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to bite your head off because of that, but I mean, I will challenge you on your beliefs, and then he said, but I'm more scared of them than I am of you, and you guys.
Whoa.
And I'm like, yeah, maybe that should tell you something. Maybe that should clue you in if you're terrified to run with the people that share your beliefs. But anyway, I don't know how much trouble I've just given him from that. But social justice warriors. No, actually, he is a totally verifiable, dyed in the real wool social justice warrior. He only had those moments of waffling, and it was all my fault because I'm evil. So
yes.
don't take it out on him.
Don't take it out on him.
Okay.
SJWs, leave him alone. Leave him alone.
Okay, so
But
that went well. And,
they treat their own that don't toe the line even worse than the others. It's kind of like any religion. When someone tries to splinter off, they are deemed heretics and hunted down.
yeah, well, I mean, they'll treat anyone who they deem to have some power over, some moral authority over, like shit. It's just a matter of time if you're part of that group.
Yeah.
Because it won't broke any dissents, and the thing is that the path you have to walk gets narrower and narrower.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time. But anyway, so it was a fun convention. We did well. I thought we did really well. And so I actually had purchased that booth at the same time as I'd purchased the Calgary Expo. So I was sort of really freaking excited for the Calgary Expo. And then I started to do the planning for that. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do like an installation because I'm a sort of also an installation artist. So I'm going to do like this installation. I'm going to have a backdrop. I'm going to have like some LED space funnel, which was really cool. And it was to me, like, that's just,
it was a fucking awesome booth.
Thank you, Karen.
It was an unbelievable installation. It was like, I saw, and I was there when all of this shit was being delivered, and Alison and her husband were trying to like uncrate it and sort of semi set it up at home, and see how the pieces all fit together. And I was just like, what the fuck is all this shit? Right. and then it all came together in the booth, and I was like, holy fuck, this is awesome. This rocks. This is like totally cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, it was really exciting. And like I said, I'm an installation artist, so the idea of people going into I could consider it like an artwork and enjoying it like that and being inspired by it is actually really thrilling. So I do tend to get a little bit crazy with that kind of thing. But anyway, so we set it up. It took us. I was excited to get to the Calgary Expo, and I had been planning it for several months, the installation. And so about a month before, I decided to do a fundraiser. And the reason why I did it a month before is because generally the time crunch tends to make people be more eager about actually paying for stuff or offering contributions. I think Karen knows what I'm talking about. It's like
when you get down to the deadline, that's when people actually start really going, oh my God, they're not going to make their goal. Here's some money. Right?
Yeah.
So that's how that works, right? So starting a fundraiser sort of fairly close to you always have to really juggle the probabilities, as far as when you want to start a fundraiser versus when the deadline is. Right?
Yeah, and for so it's sometimes better to put it closer to the deadline so people have that sense of urgency and excitement. And so I did that. I started the fundraiser to get the rest of Honey Badger Brigade to the to the expo. At the time that I started the fundraiser, the booth was registered under Xenospora. And the reason why was because I wasn't entirely sure what was going to happen with the fundraiser, if people were that interested in getting us to a Calgary Expo. And if it sort of petered out, then there would be really no point to saying that the Honey Badger Brigade was there. But the fundraiser did really well. And when we were funded, I updated the website, or I updated Calgary Expo with the new information about us, the Honey Badger Brigade, being there. So I updated the booth with that, and it ended up being printed on all of our placards, or on the booth placard, on all of our badges, on the map, and so they knew that we were going to be there. And the other thing is that they also knew since September 2014 who I was. They knew about Honey Badger Radio and the connection with Xenospora and the connection with Honey Badger Brigade.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like the same guy who dealt with the exhibit coordinator for Calgary Sask Expo is, I'm pretty sure, the same guy who does Calgary Expo. So I don't think I changed the email address that I contacted for all of this. And so, and yes, there was some sarcastic stuff on the funding site about infiltrating the convention, but that was a joke.
Yes.
It was a joke. I don't actually think that I am a space leper. Okay.
Okay, but obviously some people believe that you are indeed a space leper because Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
Because there really is the space leprosy. It's a thing that happened. It's a thing that exists. So what happened was we went there on Wednesday, I believe, to set up. And it took about me and my husband about I think it's maybe between 4 and 5 hours to set up the booth. And so we set it up. And then everybody else arrived because people were coming in by plane. And the Honey Badger Brigade sort of populated the booth. I don't know how else to describe it.
We infiltrated it.
We
penetrated your booth, Alison.
And what was really interesting is we were actually directly across from the customer service for the Calgary Expo the entire time. And so the booth was up for Thursday. We opened it up on time. We were ready to greet the public. Nothing untoward happens. Thursday was it was like a sneak peek day, so it was really, really quiet.
Yeah.
It was just like a half day.
Yeah, it was a half day. So people wandered by and we said hi and we talked. Didn't give too much politics in the actual place, but said, we're slightly controversial. We're for freedom of speech. We talk about issues other people won't. If you're interested in checking us out, blah, 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 the spiel, and then sold comic books. And then me and Sage saw that they had a Women into Comics panel, and we decided to attend it. And we also put up a Gamergate flag because Gamergate were some of the people who got us there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do that as a thank you.
Yeah. Stand up for free speech. Free speech, ethics, and journalism. Gamergate.
Oh, that sounds so horrible.
So, yeah, it was terrible. We were terrible fucking people. But so that morning, Hannah overheard someone talking, and she didn't actually think she was pretty spooked, but she wasn't completely sure if they were joking or not. But she overheard an Expo staff member and another member of, she assumed, the public waving towards the booth, but in like the general direction, like not necessarily specifically, and saying we got to shut some of these booths down. And so she brought that information back to us. And we were like, whoa, okay, well, let's talk to the customer service people. And we went over and we talked to the customer service people. And I said, is everything okay? I know that some of our materials might be deemed, controversial. Is it okay? And he said, yes, everything is fine. So in other words, when we asked the Expo if there was a problem, they assured us there wasn't every single time we asked.
Yeah.
And so we continued on with our day, except we got a little bit more concerned and we started to record ourselves just in case.
Probably a wise precaution.
That was under Hannah's suggestion. And Hannah and I think also Sage suggested it. So me and Sage saw that there was a Women into Comics panel, and we decided to attend it and see what was up. And we were, at that point in time, we were doing our recording. And so we went to the panel. They did their spiel, and to be quite honest, about 15 minutes in, it looked like they were sort of floundering for something to say. And then they brought up, we don't know why these anti-feminists or men's rights activists don't want feminism. I think I don't know the exact things they said, but
they said something about, I don't know why it's become like so horrible that women like comics, according to these men's rights activists. Right. And it's like, I don't think that there's any men's rights activist who is like chagrined or upset that women in general like comics. But yeah, that's sort of what they were like, why is this, why is this such a problem with these men's rights activist types? Right. And then you stood up and
I stood up because I'm like 5'2", so like maybe on a good day, and so if I don't stand up, nobody can freaking hear me. But anyway, I stood up and I said, do you want me to field that question? And like I said, at that point in time, it sounded like they were floundering for more content, or so I was like, okay, well, let's introduce a discussion.
Yeah.
So, or introduce a new point of view here. And I said, essentially, I don't like feminism. I'm a men's rights activist. I don't like feminism. I said, you can hate on me, but anyway, that was just me being, me. And I said,
aggressive, but also truthful, because they did hate on you, didn't they? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I guess so.
It was like you had foresight.
But it's also like, just Yeah, well, not enough apparently. So I said, the reason why I don't like feminism is you present women as victims, and I think that's not a good thing. For first of all, because it ignores the fact that men are also victims, but also because it casts women as victims, and you need to challenge both. And there was we went back and forth a bit after that, and then there was a discussion, and after I spoke, nobody else asked to speak. They just started shouting. They were just like, I'm going to talk, and they just spoke at the panel. Like they didn't even raise their hand or anything. They just shouted out whenever they wanted to, and they weren't like shouting out like angrily or anything, but they were certainly not being quiet. And the only person who raised their hand actually was Sage. It was like everybody in the audience was just piping up, and he was waiting with his hand up for like half an hour. It was actually really interesting. I wish they would release that videotape, because you would have seen all that.
Well,
but I don't think they did. I don't think they ever released the videotape of that particular panel.
But that's just it. What had happened? At what point did all of a sudden did it become a dirty thing for women to be into this stuff? Like, in the eyes of so many of these men's rights activist types, or...
Would you like us to field that question?
Huh?
Would you like us to field that question?
Sure, go for it.
Because I am a men's rights activist, so you can hate on me. The reason why I don't like feminism is because you promote this idea that women are defined by being victims. If you look at the context of all of your issues, men also face considerable problems as well. And they need to be brought into the story, and not just for men's sake, because this hides men's vulnerability, also for the sake of challenging the notion that women are defined as victims.
If it makes them look bad or goes against their thing, they probably have no incentive to release it.
Probably not. Although you would think that, at the very least, Mary Sue, before reporting on all this, would have asked to see the videotape. But regardless, so we thought we thought it went well. We thought it was like nice discussion. Afterwards, I thought it was pretty good. And then we left, and we ended up talking with a librarian for about an hour almost afterwards. She was one of the people who spoke up and talked about how people would come into her library and demand that certain books be taken off the shelves.
Yeah.
She was quite feisty about the issue of censorship. So we talked to her for about an hour. Yeah, I think about an hour. Then we wandered back to the booth. This time it was closing time for the booth. So we wandered back. I think there was like maybe 10 minutes left. So we packed some stuff up, and then we went home for the night. And at some point, I think the editor for the Mary Sue tweeted about how if there's men's rights activists at your panel, you should ignore them. And then I tweeted back with a video discussion that we had afterwards, where some of you guys got drunk and feisty, but yeah. And then sorry.
I'm okay. That you're making a jab at me, aren't you?
No, not particularly.
God damn it, Allison! My liver is my own business. But yeah, go on.
So, and then after that, we went back the next morning, and it was just at one point we had heard a tweet or something, and we didn't know what was going on.
We like, because even before you, like, because you were staying at your dad's place, and the rest of us were staying at the condo, the rented condo,
Mm-hmm.
and we heard that there were things going down before you were even at the expo, right? We were hearing on Twitter that we were gone before any of us had arrived at the expo.
Yeah, gotcha. So we were getting information from them, and so when I went up to open the booth, we were walking up the stairs, and holy crap, that was uncomfortable moment. Like, it was like going into enemy territory.
Yeah.
And so we went to the booth. The booth beside us when we set up was empty. And by the time we came back to the booth, they had started setting up their own booth, and it actually had covered the Gamergate flag. So we actually got the stuff that they had covered, and we sort of took it down, and we were deciding what to do with it, when I was approached by Sean Hinkleman from the Calgary Expo. And he said that we had to leave. And this is the between the time that we asked well, at least once, might have been repeatedly, do you have a problem? Is there a problem here? Is there something wrong? This was the first time the Expo contacted us directly, was Sean Hinkleman telling me that we had to get out. And he said that we had to get out before it opened at 11. I think it was 10.
Because our being booted might embarrass the Expo, right? So if we weren't gone before the doors opened, people might ask questions.
Oh, yes. We wouldn't want people to ask any questions about anything.
Oh, yeah, no.
Everyone stand in line with your money in your hands and whack them down on tables. There's
and Hinkleman, he demanded that you turn off your recorder.
Yeah, and he also said that he wouldn't tell me why in front of anyone else.
Yeah, so he took Alison off, and her husband managed to, convince him, like, I'm your husband, I'm not leaving her to go with you, right? I'm gonna stick with her, so you gotta put up with me. And they allowed him to go with her off to the side where nobody could hear, so they could tell her why she was being ejected, right? Because they didn't want anybody else to know. They didn't want any witnesses. They didn't want any recordings of it. They didn't want any of that, right? And here's the fucked up thing, right? Is that we found out weeks fucking later, that there were 4 cops and 2 police vans parked outside the freaking the bay doors nearest to our booth, just in case.
Wow.
Just in case we didn't go peacefully.
Just in case they had to, get us out in cuffs.
Just in case we pulled out machine guns and started spraying people.
Say hello to my little friend.
Yeah, because we're so dangerous. We're terrorists. They had 4 cops and 2 police vans waiting at the fucking bay doors.
If I can just say, one of the things I've been talking to a number of people about is I remember, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the skeptic community or the atheist community, but before I started this show, that was the one I kind of floated around in. And I remember when the social justice warriors started banging their pots and pans and kind of ripped those communities apart. I remember all the way along, they kept saying, oh, they're just a fringe element. You should just ignore them.
Ignore them and they'll go away.
Yeah,
totally,
they'll go away
totally.
once there's...
Humor them, just humor them. It's all good.
This saying, I think, where they say freedom, the cost of freedom is eternal vigilance. I think people have this oversimplistic idea that just means a military. It means you have to fight bad ideas with good ideas. You need to be aware of where this destructive kind of poison enters into society and degrades things and turns things even upside down. And freedom of expression, these people might seem like, this is a perfect example. A lot of people's reaction was mixed on whether the organization that we're talking about right now and their behavior, whether this should be seen in terms of freedom of speech, because they are primarily a private organization. But the social implications is what I'm always trying to key people in on. This is happening because there is a changing of social values, that this company thinks that this is the way to make money or save money, at the very least, is to shut down freedom of expression for anything that goes against the accepted order or what is the great truth of the time. It might seem small here and there, but it adds up to a big title shift.
Like political correctness as practiced under communism is a top-down thing, but in our society, it's top-down, bottom-up, all ends against the middle. That's what it is. It is every single aspect of our society. So it's not just legal punishments like what Gregory Allen Elliott is going through. It's also social punishments like what Tim Hunt and Matt Taylor went through. It's essentially it's supported sort of from the top down, Justin Trudeau saying Gamergate is a hate movement, and then also from the bottom up with these, we're oppressed people and we say Gamergate is a hate movement, right? It's from all sides, right? Supporting a specific narrative, right? And it doesn't necessarily have any bearing on what is the actual truth, right?
Well, the very fact that they thought that, well, the reason they gave was that there were some unhappy tweets. Was that the actual reason they said?
Yeah, there was. Okay, well, let's get back to Sean Hinkleman taking me aside. He said there were multiple things that he said. He said that we had to leave because of not mean tweets, but a bunch of Twitters. She said about 20 to 25 or 24 or something tweets had been sent to the Calgary Expo concerned about our booth. And let me try to get back into that headspace. We didn't necessarily argue with him too much. I just said, well, did you verify? Like, did you verify their accusations? And then they went and he said, I'm just fucking, I think I might be too tired. But he said,
well, if you can't remember the details,
he said that there were 20 to 25. There were 20 to 25 accusations of us harassing panelists that through on social media, and that this was essentially why we were being ejected is because we were harassing people, right?
Wow.
And what got me with the whole thing was that my only interactions with anybody at Calgary Expo, other than to compliment somebody's artwork at a booth or whatever, was to walking back to the booth with one of those bags of the mini donuts, the warm off the freaking fryer mini donuts, being like, oh my god, these mini donuts, holy shit, right?
Yeah.
Anybody who was walking by, oh my god, these are so good. And then to lend our neighbors a pen. That was the extent of my interaction with people at the expo. We were pretty much sticking to ourselves. We did not people approached our booth, even the people who you would think were fans because they bought, or gamer gators or whatever, because they bought merchandise specific to that. They didn't really stick around and chat. They didn't want to. They didn't want to be seen as sticking around and chatting. So we were like being very, very low key, and this also goes to this whole we're infiltrating and we're going in stealth mode and all of this stuff. Well, of course, right? Stealth mode means you don't make waves. You don't do anything wrong. You be on your best behavior all the time, and you do whatever you can to fit in, other than maybe one or two things like, having a Gamergate banner, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, we were probably the best behaved fucking people at that fucking convention.
Well, the thing is that stealth mode was a complete joke. Like, there was no fucking content. There was no actual, there was nothing. I thought
at the same time, everywhere we go, we're super low key. Everywhere we go, where we feel that there's any kind of conflict, any kind of, where we might not be welcome, what do? We're like, we are on our best behavior. We are absolutely, no rape jokes allowed, no freaking off-color nothing, nothing that could get us booted out. We will be on our best behavior. We're going to have cameras rolling in the booth the whole time. We're going to be wearing cameras, to make sure that, we didn't do nothing. We didn't do nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, I didn't until Hannah came back and told us about this. I didn't actually feel like I was in a situation where I was under siege or anything. It's not quite as bad as I think that, or at least I wasn't approaching it in the way that we had to wear cameras, because we didn't actually wear cameras. I was just, I didn't think that this would happen, to be honest. I don't know what I thought.
Well, and for the people, and for people who think that this is just an isolated incident, because I know I'm not the only one who made a big deal about it. I was recording my interview with Dean Esme that day, and we delayed it a couple hours because this was just happening to you guys that day. And the next day, I did my interview with Mikeru. And, I know I'm not the only one who said that this is something we're taking note of. Something's really wrong here. Look at what's going on in the universities now, especially in the States, but in here, in Canada as well. You have a bunch of people who are now actually saying out loud, freedom of expression doesn't matter. In other words, this assumption that if someone's saying something that they are, in quotations, not supposed to say, or in quotations, is bad, whatever, that they should be able to be silenced. This is something that I'm finding disturbing, that it's reaching out further and further into the public.
Oh yeah, no, and even if you look at that whole thing with the dentistry students at in what was it, Nova Scotia, right?
Yeah.
That was a private fucking Facebook page. That was a private Facebook page. People, like, literally, should we have cameras in and recording devices in men's locker rooms now?
Yeah.
So that they don't, like, you know, when start comparing, you know, like the size of their dicks, we can like, you know, censure them and make them not have jobs anymore. Like, really is that where we're going? That people can't even in a private conversation where they feel like they're free to speak, to just go over the top.
Yeah.
Go over the top. Here's your 40-pound box of rape, right? Here's your 40 fucking pound box of rape, right?
Seed. Okay, all right. So he essentially what happened is he said there was a bunch of people who tweeted and you gotta leave. I was like, well, did you look into this? I mean,
yeah.
Did you that's it? That's all it takes? I wasn't actually really fighting. I was not in a position to really have an argument with him. So I was probably not putting up. I didn't put up much of a fight. I was just like, okay. And then he said, "Oh, the harassment at the panel," and I'm like, "Did you?" Anyway, so he said that we had to get out of there, and then we had to be out by the time the doors opened. And so I had to figure out how to get down a installation that took 4 to 5 hours to put up without the tools that we had put it up with. And the other thing is that I had no idea because I didn't have a car. My husband had dropped us off to go park. And so I had this task and I didn't know how I was going to accomplish it. And what was interesting was the security guards that were hovering around really close. And it was getting really, really stressful, I remember. And people were getting a little bit testy towards each other in the booth. And so I remember looking up and the security guards were laughing. Probably not anything. They might not have been actually laughing at us or anything related to us, but it was just really overwhelming at that moment. So I went out a little ways and I started to cry. And after that they backed off a little. And then the customer service people finally relented and said we could get the car in by the
bay doors.
The bay doors that were right by our booth, or there was like a ramp where you could drive the car into the back of the exhibition hall, which is where we were, and then just go through. And then they gave us a cart, so we could do this. Yeah. I don't know if it was because they cared or they just wanted to just get the fuck out of there, but. So we managed. My husband managed to scrounge some tools from the car, and we managed to get everything down and out. We didn't make I think it was either 10 or 11 that we were supposed to make. And we didn't make it quite at that time, but we did get out by about half an hour after they wanted us out. And
one of the first people who stumbled by our booth, and I think he was actually searching for us. Right? He was looking for our booth because he knew we were going to be there. He came across us while we were dismantling, and he was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And we explained the situation to him. He took a picture of all of us, and he tweeted it saying, "Apparently this group is not diverse enough for Calgary Expo." You know, a picture of a bunch of women and some men, one of the men being Puerto Rican, right? Visible minority, right? We're not diverse enough. And then he took us to a booth for sort of a legal foundation that was at the CalEx. So he was just like, "Oh no, I'll take you here and maybe you can get some advice as to what you can do about this." But essentially, it was just absolutely obscene, right? That they would wait until Alison was there at 10 o'clock or something like that.
Well, just a bit before, I think.
Yeah, and say, okay, now you have to take down this thing by 11, right? They didn't tell her or us that there were police waiting, even though there were. We found out later, right? Just in case, we turned out to be ISIS.
Yeah.
And and then 2 days later in the park, the first day after, or was it the day that we got kicked out? We arranged for a meeting in the.
No, it was the day after.
It was the day after we arranged for a meeting in the park, and then the day after that, right? The Sunday.
Yes. 2 days.
We had another meeting in the park across the street from the fairgrounds, and we were, unlike the day before, the Sunday was a really nice day. So instead of adjourning to a pub somewhere after everybody had met up, we decided to just hang around in the park and eat pepperoni and cheese trays and veggie trays that people had brought and hang out.
As ISIS
right?
is,
so
as
here
ISIS
we
is
are,
wont to
a group of
do.
maybe 30 yeah, as ISIS is wont to do. They're like total pepperoni fiends. Anyhow, so we're hanging out across the street from the fairgrounds because this is the best place for people who were going to attend the convention to meet us, or who were attending the convention and wanted to meet us, to be able to walk across the street and meet us, right? So we're there, and then we notice that there's like 5 or 6 security guards standing across the street, staring at us, and we're like, "What the fuck is that all about?" Are we doing any? We're in a public park, right? And then next thing you know, there's another 2 fucking police vans, right?
Jeez.
One of them pulls all the way up to us. The guy gets out and he talks to us. And here's the thing. He talked to us. We explained what happened. He says, well, it's a public park, so you're welcome to stay as long as you want. And for the record, you seem like really nice people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But security he told us that security had called him. Security for Calex had called the police because they were worried that we would commit some kind of violent atrocity on the convention.
The following is a raw audio clip from the police talking to the honey badgers in the park. I try to clean it up, so bear with me. Skip ahead a minute if you can't make it out.
No, I'd say that you were still hanging out and get things brewing, or I don't know. Okay.
Where filming over there, he took a thing so, and he left.
Glad to hear it. Very nice bunch of people, and I'm sure you're aware of the latest when you move on, it's great, but no, all right. Thank you very much.
Hey, you got to think how stupid these people. I can't believe I can't believe they're actually that stupid. Like, this must have been a premeditated attempt to cause effect. What they were trying to do with that move, I have no idea, but it seems malicious.
Oh, well, it's either malicious or it's like completely retarded. Like, okay, stupidity or malfeasance, which, like, what's worse? Right? I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, like, we had the cops called on us because we were having a fucking picnic. We were having a picnic, and they were so concerned they called the cops on us. And they told the cops enough, right, about how dangerous we were, that the cops sent 4 officers and 2 vans. Not a car with 1 officer, but 4 officers and 2 vans.
Yeah. And they were probably
just that dangerous.
They were probably given a big fish story about how wild you guys were going to be.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what swatting is? Like, that's what swatting is in Canada, because we don't have swatting in Canada. What we have is 4 officers and 2 vans who show up and, like, make conversation for 15 minutes, and then they're like, oh, have a nice day, and they leave.
Yeah.
That's what we have for swatting in Canada.
Luckily.
Or someone shows up and knocks over your coffee.
If we were in the fucking States, God knows what would have happened. They would have said, well, and we think they have guns, right? Nobody would even say, and we think they have guns in Canada. Not even in Calgary.
Yeah.
Calgary is a Texas of Canada, and we still don't have people saying, oh, and we think they have guns.
Well, it's like, still, they had a situation where they told armed people that we were potentially a threat. That's a little disconcerting.
Yeah, no, it's fucked up. It's completely fucked up. And, there is no record. Okay, find me, Mr. Dragonbeard.
Yeah.
Okay? Please go out of your way, do some research, and find me a single instance of a self-identified men's rights advocate hurting another person, like opening fire on a crowd in a shopping mall, disrupting an event and assaulting the speaker, anything like that. Find me something, because the closest thing you'll find to that is Thomas Ball. Thomas Ball, a self-identified men's rights advocate who was a member of a local men's rights organization. And you know what his crime was? He made some judges late for lunch by self-immolating on the steps of the courthouse, the family courthouse that separated him from his kids. So he committed suicide in an inconvenient way that embarrassed people, right? That was his act of terrorism, right? Show me any case, even that stupid Danielle D'Entremont in fucking Ottawa, right? Who, my teeth are broken and I have a bruise on my cheek because I freaking slipped and fell on the ice, but I'm going to blame it on men's rights activists on Twitter, right? Nobody's ever found. Allison and me and the Honey Badgers, we pledged, how much did we pledge? $6,000 fucking dollars?
Yep.
$6,000 fucking dollars for information leading to the arrest and conviction of any men's rights, any person involved with the men's rights movement, right, who was responsible for her injuries, right? And nothing.
Yeah, we haven't received one word from that.
None.
Yeah, and it's pretty much, the time has expired, so it's probably not going to happen. But we did put up $6,000 for information leading to the arrest of Danielle D'Entremont's attacker.
Yeah.
And nobody ever contacted us or said anything about it. But I mean, the thing is with what happened at Calgary Expo, it took me a very long time to even sort of recover emotionally enough to just take stock of what they did, because it's not just being thrown out of the expo. The Calgary Expo and the Mary Sue, particularly the Mary Sue's article where they accused me of infiltrating under our own goddamn name, the expo. And we've recently actually gotten a response from the Mary Sue to our legal suit against them in the expo, and they are basically saying that they are protected because they did due diligence to ascertain that what they reported was the truth.
Right.
But they didn't reach out to any of us for comment.
No, in fact, in the same letter that they said that they did due diligence, they said, and they never contacted us. And it's like, by omission, you are saying you never even attempted to contact. Is that due diligence?
They were actually laying the onus on us to correct them.
Yes,
it's unbelievable.
And the onus on me to correct them.
We should reach out to them and write to them and make them correct their errors, right? Because we didn't do that, they had done due diligence, right? Because nobody requested that we correct our errors, so
Well, no, not just that. I mean, it's by saying that we should have contacted them, they are admitting by implication that they never attempted to contact us.
Yeah.
Or anyone. So that's due diligence. One, you don't even contact the people who are involved in the incident. So it's like, and the other thing is that if they had done due diligence, they would have known that our name was on everything, the map, our program badges, the program, the placard at the booth. I mean, they allege that we infiltrated the expo. We were pretending to be not the Honey Badger Brigade and using the Honey Badger Brigade name.
Yeah, it was really bizarre, right? That they would take our satire and say, oh, because honestly, I really wish that actually, Allison, I really wish you had allowed me to help write that piece of satire, because I would have actually suggested that that Rachel was not, in fact, a normal human being, but we had gestated her in an artificial womb and then raised her in a sensory deprivation tank on a steady diet of goldfish crackers, freaking Pokemon, and anime videos and My Little Pony, right? And her real name isn't Rachel, it's RKU 400, right? And like how because this we started this. She was genetically engineered, gestated in an artificial womb, raised in a sensory deprivation tank, just for this one fucking event. Just to prepare her for this one fucking event where she will be the ultimate soldier. She will be the ultimate mole. She will be the ultimate nerd and be able to infiltrate the Calgary Expo 2014.
It sounds like a background story for
Sorry.
one of the Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, like
it's ridiculous. Yeah, and they're saying that was doing due diligence.
Like this,
so that's their protection.
Yeah,
and
no, this is like I don't know if you're aware, Mr. Dragonbeard. I can't help smiling when I call you that, but Mr. Dragonbeard. I don't know if you're aware, but one of our compatriots, Nick Redding, the guy who started the Men's Rights Edmonton website, he ran for city council a year or two ago, and he came in last, right? I'm almost positive my parents voted for him though, because my parents have a sense of humor. But the brochures, the pamphlets, that we dropped off in mailboxes in Ward 8, right, where he was running, they said things like he would institute a program of animal husbandry that would require the selective breeding for the elongation of the bodies of livestock and pets, so that even our pets and cows and chickens, right, would emulate the phallus, as do all of our architecture and our weaponry and our airplanes and things like that. Okay. And then he also said that he would bring in programs, because he knows that this is what our patriarchal society wants. He would bring in more programs to de-educate women, to deny women education, specifically education about the patriarchy and how it subjugates women, because this is actually counterproductive when you're trying to subjugate women. Okay. And he would also, because there are 500 and something beds in the province for battered women and 2 for men, by the time he was done, there would be 1 bed for men and a dirty dog blanket for women, right? That's what would exist for battered spousal services in the province. Oh, and his campaign speech suggested that we change the name of Alberta to Albertistan to show solidarity with our oppressed Taliban brothers, who are indeed oppressed just as we are under their gynocentric and gynocratic authoritarian government. Okay, so there were feminist groups in Edmonton reporting him to the police, literally phoning the police to let the police know Nick Redding's running for city council. Because I guess running for city council is like an indictable offense or something like that. And so they're phoning to let the police know, the local police know, Nick Redding is running for city council. And then when people are calling them and mocking them for that online, they came back and they said, he makes it all out as if it's a joke, but he really believes this stuff.
For God's sake, yes, we really want to institute well, I mean, what they'll do is they'll come back and say, oh yeah, but you really do want to negate the teaching of feminism in schools and shit like that.
Well, we really do want to subjugate women. Come on, Allison.
Yeah, that's true.
We do. I mean, you and I both, all we want to do is make sandwiches all day.
Well, no, I just want other women to make sandwiches for me.
Oh yeah, no, but that's what Tim Hortons is for. And Subway.
Yeah, so it's like we didn't actually put, I don't know if we put in the education thing in there. I suggested that we make it so that because the patriarchy party pamphlet was like like something between me and Nick and Laszlo or Razlo. And yeah, it was a lot of fun because there was one thing where we had a picture of Nick with a toy truck, and the caption was, "Nick, your overlord,
Overlord Nick has just
snatched a truck from the hands of a little girl. He later feasted on her tears." Yeah. Jesus Christ. And just absurd shit like that. No, and it was all tongue in cheek. None of this stuff we were advancing realistically.
Dr. Evil. It was so Dr. Evil. I'm surprised. You should have put in, and he's also demanding $1 million. $1 million. Because it's just so fucking absurd. It was literally, we created this super villain who sits at a conference table in an extinct volcano with sharks with frickin' lasers, right, on their foreheads, right? That's what we constructed, and feminists were like, but he really believes that stuff.
Well,
Right.
this is something that you'll find both from people who are
and the weirdest thing is most of his material was written by women.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because your speech, yeah, you wrote the speech. Yeah, no, this I don't remember the education stuff, but it probably was in there. I think
it was one of the little things with the check marks, the little bullet points with the check marks. The education, deprive women of an education, particularly any education that might educate them about patriarchy.
Yeah, it was all just ridiculous. Like, all of it was just ridiculous. And we said that we would get rid of, and this is probably what they found most offensive. We would get rid of rape laws because women would never say no to the holy schlong, and they should just thank God that a man gave it to them.
Oh man, and then remember we interviewed him on the radio when he was running, right?
Yeah.
And you said, "Oh, well, we should eliminate the word no from the female vernacular, from the female vocabulary, right?" And he said, "But then how would I ever get off?" Right?
Fucking horrible. None of this we believe.
He just like, it was just like, damn, but then how would I get off if they weren't screaming no? And we were just like, both of us were like, I think we were so taken aback by how quick that was, how quick that response was, because some people are just so quick on the ball when it comes to stuff like that. Like the time I was reading a fortune cookie to my boss, "You will achieve great wisdom," and I said to him, "I would rather be stupid and rich," and he just instantly, bam, "Well, you're halfway there," right? And it was just like, how can you not laugh at that? How can you not applaud that? That was like brilliant. It was like instant. "Well, you're halfway there," right? It was just such a quick response. It was just, and we were all just kind of, we were just like, "Oh my God, you're right. How would you get off if they couldn't be screaming no," right? Because you're the evil overlord. You're the grand wizard of patriarchy. Rape is your bread and butter. Right?
Yeah, but what was amazing is that they, well, actually Nick sometimes was like, what, he would get interviewed and he would play it straight, and then somebody would eventually be like, this is a joke, right? You're joking, right? It's like, yes, of course I'm fucking joking. Jesus Christ. Nobody, not even men's rights activists would run on a patriarchy platform.
Oh God, no. And and Nick is spectacular. I'm just going to draw attention, and if you can find the footage of it, I lost track of the footage of it, but it was on YouTube somewhere, of when we had the men's rights rally in Toronto, and Bash Back arrived to infiltrate our men's rights rally and derail it, right? So they all come and they arrive, and there's security officers in between us cops and stuff, in between the two groups. And Nick, of course, in his Men's Rights Edmonton sandwich board, freshly shaven head for his Dr. Evil persona, right? He just walks right straight down past the cops, right? And just right into the midst of these socialist, Marxist, bashback, like eco-feminist, trans radicalist freaking protesters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's just standing in the middle of them, and and so somebody asked him, what who the fuck are you? And he was like, "Oh, I'm Nick Redding. I'm running for city council in Edmonton, Ward 8, blah, 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 on the patriarchy party ticket, blah, 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 blah." Right? And they were like, "Oh, well, what do you think of a flat tax?" And he's like, "Fat tax?" And he looks around, he's like, "Oh yeah, I bet you there's a lot of fat women here we could tax," right? and then they're like, no, flat tax. And he's like, and he looks around, he's like, "There's a lot of flat women here too. Jesus, make a lot of money on that too," right? And it was just so instant. It was so automatic. It's just like without even taking a breath, he could come up with something like that, and it's just such a beautiful gift. I wish I had that gift. But
well, you have the gift of filling space with your voice.
Oh, is that like a backhand? Do you have a crush on me, Alison? Are you negging me?
I'm gonna pull your pigtails.
Oh my God. Well, like Ali Fogg. Then I think he was pulling my pigtails a while ago. But
yeah,
there you go.
Okay, so is there anything else? It's getting a little late.
Alison is getting tired. I'm having to make popcorn right away, so.
Okay, well, before I lose you then, let's talk just a little bit about where you guys are going online with the activities you're doing now. I know you have a few different shows on your YouTube channel. Rant Zerker.
It's not my best work. It's just my most undisciplined work. Really what it is. But
it is what it is.
It's entertaining, I hope, and it serves a purpose.
It is. But one of the common things that you guys do, even though you're entertaining in each of the formats of the show that you do, is that at the Honey Badgers, I see a propensity towards critical reasoning. Let's talk about what the argument is, why we disagree with it, what the relevant information is. That's always helpful for people to, the more they listen to it and consider what you're talking about, I'm sure it makes an impact on people's ability to actually try and apply a little critical reasoning in their own life.
Well, thanks. I try. Well, I try to think things through, through different points of view, different perspectives, and try to understand them.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that sometimes it's nice to hear people just ranting, because you can actually rant because of critical thinking, right? Like it is okay to get mad when people are being delusional or stupid, right? When people are being ridiculous, it's perfectly fine to get mad and get emotional and get frustrated and be like, what the fuck? And I think that sort of brings a new angle into it. That, I mean, like, I know that my shtick is usually that I'm quite reserved and straightforward and calm and rational and all of those things, right? That doesn't always appeal to everybody. The rant tends to appeal to certain people a little bit more than that. So, yeah.
No, I still try to stay reasoned when we rant. Sometimes you just have to let out the anger. I mean, the thing is, it's not necessarily anger towards it's just the anger towards the behavior that I've been seeing and the attitudes of dismissal. And I think that's healthy to know when people are violating someone's boundaries and are taking liberties that they don't really have a right to. And in a lot of cases, the liberties that we see feminists taking is that they get to put themselves as the top of a moral hierarchy in which nobody else has any right to have a stay. So it's like it is self-righteousness without representation. So that they sorry, go ahead, Karen.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It's essentially they're and even if you look at Jonathan McIntosh's outtakes video, have you seen that?
Yeah.
Dr. Dragonbeard, sorry.
I watched it. Yeah, I watched.
Sorry, Karen, we can't hear you.
Yeah, no. If you look at that and you think, okay, so look at the difference between what he's doing in that outtakes video and what the final product is, right? What's the final product of those outtakes is something that's so earnest and so sincere and so morally upstanding and so serious, right? And meanwhile, he's like, doom, 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 doom. And the word is patriarchy. Dun, dun, dun. Thunder, right? You know, like, he doesn't have any greater freaking claim to the moral high ground than anybody else. He just doesn't.
No. Oh, well,
no, I don't know. His entire fucking stick is an act.
I don't know if you guys.
I mean, even in the middle of it, he said acting.
And instead, actively listen and absorb what is being said before responding.
You know what? I'm going to give any guy listening to me, permission that whenever a woman talks about her own life, that's fine. When she extrapolates her anecdotal experience to other women, go, no, And when she extrapolates her anecdotal experience, adds a little bit of fucking paranoia and some borderline assumptions about men's intentions, and then projects that onto some statement about men's experiences, just walk away. You don't need that shit in your life.
Now, of course, this does not mean you have to agree with everything every individual woman says.
Oh, he gave himself an out. I bet you don't want to agree with me.
No one person's perspective can ever represent all of feminism or the experiences of all women.
Okay, fair enough. Then why do you let certain women's perspectives, certain women's experiences represent all women? Huh? Why? And it's always the same. It's always the same general theme. I'm a victim. Therefore, my experience of being a victim represents the experience of all women. Yeah, it's always that.
It simply means that we, as men, are not in a position to define feminism for women.
How many of Anita's scripts did you write?
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if you guys know the tagline for our show is Apostasy now, get ready to root for the bad guys. And the reason that we chose that was because so often the people that at first are presented to the public as bad guys or bad ideas, once you actually start thinking about them and listening to the arguments, often it's the other way around. You know, and feminism is, I think, a highlight for that, how that can happen.
I would agree.
Yeah, and the incident there, just in passing, I was thinking about this when you were talking about it, about the expo that you're at. People should not underestimate the impact that it can have, and will have on most people, to have your reputation smeared by people who you would expect better of, people with authority or power of some sort. But also, the idea that the police were called on you, I think that part of the story might seem like it might anger a lot of people, but that really is mind-blowing when you're in a position when the government is ready to use force on you, over you've done nothing wrong. That is, that's mind-blowing. It's a perspective shift. At least, you know, for me in my court case, it was when I got those letters saying, and blah, 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 oh, by the way, we'll also throw you in prison. I was like, holy shit, I haven't done anything.
Yeah. No, it was, you know, and it's really nice that, you know, we're in Canada. And so they sent a couple of vans and only one of them pulled up right to us, and only one cop came out and he talked to us, and he was very, very friendly and all of that, because that's the way cops in Canada tend to be, in my experience anyway. I think I've only, out of all of the interactions with police that I've ever had happen, I've only had one cop who was like an utter dick, right? And, you know, like, so essentially you have this situation where it's not so much that the cops were willing to do that, because if somebody calls the cops and says, I believe these people are a danger, right? I think that the cops should actually send, you know, some people to actually look into it. I absolutely do, right? Send the cops to look into it and see if they're actually a danger or not, right? Which is what the police did. There's nothing wrong with what the police did in this instance. Absolutely not at all.
I didn't mean to make it sound like I was blaming them.
Officer involved was, no. I know. But I just wanted to stress that the cops themselves are not, they are not the problem here, right? Other than that, there is, of course, there is a way that people can abuse all of these systems, right? You know, I could abuse Twitter's flagging system to delete people's accounts. I could abuse YouTube's flagging system to delete people's accounts or have their videos taken down. I could abuse all kinds of mechanisms that are set up to protect people. I could abuse those, right, in order to bully people. Right? Yeah. And this is one of the things that we really don't want to look at, is the systems that are set in place to protect people can also be used to bully other people, right? And to abuse other people. And that's not okay. The cops are a weapon. They are. They absolutely are. They're a weapon of righteousness. When they're acting in a righteous manner, they are a weapon of righteousness. They are a weapon of societal values. They are a weapon of our moral impetus, like what we want for our society. The cops are supposed to enforce that, right? But when they are being misled, when they are being fed wrong information, they can be turned into a weapon of attack. They can be turned into a weapon of abuse. They can be turned into a weapon of bullying. And that's really what all of these systems that we've set up to protect people, they can also be used to silence people, silence innocent people, to intimidate people, to punish people, right?
Yeah.
All of these things that are mechanisms of protection can also be used as weapons, right? If people are willing to do that. So.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
I really like the content that you guys bring out. It is You have a good bunch. You guys really work well together, at least from the part that I can see as the audience. Maybe you squabble behind the scenes, but...
Don't we squabble in front of the scenes?
Yes,
yeah,
but it's
no,
amusing.
I think we actually we squabble more in front of the scenes than we do behind the scenes because we know that it's entertaining to people to hear us, like lob bombs at each other and victims and stuff like that, right?
No, I guarantee you we squabble more in front of people than we do behind. It's like we'll be bitching at each other, and if you listen to the conversation we've had before the show, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get some cupcakes for John's birthday. And it's like, oh yeah, I like those kind of. It's like it's not anything like the conversation we have during the show, really.
Yeah, no, and we'll have conversations like Allison will be like, oh, the Karen train, call censor duck, blah blah blah. You just like your voice is good to fill empty space and blah blah blah, right? And she does all those things, and I'm like, oh, you're such a fucking bitch, Allison. You're such a hard ass. You're such a ruthless cunt, right? And all of these things, right? Oh fuck, stop whipping me, Allison, right? Thank you, ma'am. May I have another? Right? And all of these things, and behind the scenes it's completely different. We're just like she'll be like, Karen, I need some advice, and I'll be like, okay, you told me what the situation, I think you're good, I think you're okay, right? And it's just that's the behind the scenes thing. It's nothing like nothing like what goes on while the cameras are rolling, because it's fun to do friendly angry. With me, it's very fun to do friendly angry and be like, I fucking ripped that duck's head off and shit down its fucking neck hole. If I ever see that duck, it's dead. Right?
I don't think we did. We occasionally, like, remember when you sent me that flower, that picture of that gigantic flower that smells like rotting meat?
I think I did, but it kind of looked like a vagina too. Though.
Yeah, that's the perfect flower for you.
Yeah, it was a vagina that smelled like rotting meat. I was like, here you go, Allison.
I don't know why you even sent me that picture.
I was just like, have a flower.
Just check out like an 8-foot flower that smells like rotting meat. Okay.
Actually, it looks more like a uterus than a vagina.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever it is, it's disgusting.
Yeah, no, it's pretty gross. But honestly, you've sent me things that made my hair stand on end too. So
really, what?
I don't remember. I remember. I only remember the emotion. I don't remember the details. I'm so triggered right now.
Safe space. Let's form a safe space.
It was probably some of the feminists that I've sent you.
Either that or tentacle porn or something like that.
Clop, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe dildos. I don't know.
No, I wouldn't
Historical dildos.
Maybe that.
Yeah.
But not just unsolicited dildos.
Yeah, no.
That's not my style.
She's never sent me unsolicited dildos.
No, never.
I've always asked for them.
I have standards.
I've always been like, send them to me. And then I cringe and hide my face. Right? And then I peek between my fingers at the dildo she sent me. So
yeah.
I don't think I've ever sent you a dildo.
I don't know. You know what I mean, though. Every once in a while, you send me something really atrocious, like some freaking stupid feminist video or something like that, and I'm just like, no.
No, we have to do it. We have to rant Zerk this.
God damn it.
It exists. Why do we climb it? Because it exists.
It is there.
Somebody's thought that this needed to happen. Somebody somewhere.
All right.
I
have a quick question for Karen. This one's been on my mind for a while, as I've been following you for a while. Has the possibility or the discussion ever come up about having you have as a speaker or a debater at any kind of skeptic conference or anything like that? Because I know you do speaking engagements.
I've never been invited to an atheist conference or atheist or skeptic conference.
So yeah, this is one of the things.
So I mean, I will speak anywhere. I will speak at an atheist conference. I will speak at a skeptic conference. I will speak at a Christian conference. I will speak at an NDP conference. I will speak anywhere. Yeah. And I will tailor the message to suit the group, right?
Well, specifically
that I'm speaking to.
Specifically for skepticism, all it has to be is a debate that's supposed to be evidence as the basis, right? Or a discussion. In that point of view, you lay out your case based on evidence that you have. And I remember when I started getting into the social justice crazies in the atheist community, there was a lot of this stuff about certain high kind of profile people running these conferences saying, oh, we're neutral. Yet they would line their conference with all kinds of feminist speakers. And, well, where was the counterpoint? There was never a counterpoint. And so people stopped funding them. People stopped going there. And all the backbiting and fighting tore these things down. The funding is still way down from what it was.
Yeah.
And I think they got what they deserved as far as that goes. Anyways.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think they've declared certain topics off limits for skepticism.
Oh yeah, I think that's slowly starting to change. But I mean, this should have changed a long time ago.
It should not have changed at all. It should not have happened in the first place.
You're right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, I look at it like I will go on frickin' Breitbart. I will go on Steven Crowder. I will also go on the Young Turks and David Pakman. I will go anywhere anybody wants to actually give me a fair amount of time to say my piece. I will go. If there are skeptics who want me to speak at a skeptical conference or an atheist conference, I am an atheist. Go ahead, invite me. Right? But I can't storm the gates. I'm not gonna, and I'm not gonna invite myself. I'm not gonna reach out to them and say, "Hey, man, you freaking losers! Why haven't you invited me yet?" Like, no, it's not who I am.
I can just now see you and Paul Elam charging in. Quickly to the stage.
Yeah, no, people are always asking me anytime I comment on a Drunk Peasants podcast. People are like, "When are you going to go on?" And I'm like, "When they invite me." What am I supposed to do? Like, fucking break into TJ's house, rip the mic out of his hand, and kick him in the testicles until he stops screaming for mercy, and then just take over the podcast?
That would be
like,
entertaining.
what am I supposed to do? I don't like that. I can't do that, and I'm not going to invite myself on. I'm not going to push myself forward. If they want me on, they can invite me, and I'll go on, right? But yeah, I'm not the kind of person who's going to force themselves into spaces where I'm not wanted. So
well, I mean, you do a great job, but because I'm feeling guilty that we're keeping Alison here and she's falling asleep, I wanted to give you each.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay.
You're awake now?
She's doing
yeah, no, I'm okay. I just I actually finished up my painting, and I might clean my hands. I might go AFK for a bit, but I'm okay. For some reason, I just for whatever reason, I was like thinking back of what we were talking about with Sean Hinkleman, and I just couldn't follow the conversation completely.
No, it's just actually dealing with stuff that's not pleasant.
Yeah, it's just it's unfortunate.
So
I mean, they really did actually nuke my career from low orbit.
Yeah, no, and I mean, this is I mean, it's not even just that it was just this budding career of a nobody. I mean, at the Saskatoon convention, you had you had someone offer you a job teaching art.
Yeah. I mean, it is a bit it's not, I'm not I'm not in at least in terms of this, I'm not in a huge position in terms of my comic book, but yeah, I wasn't the work that I go into is design. I'm sort of I would be classified as an emerging artist. But I was, prior to this, and it was in 2007, I received a Canadian Council of the Arts grant for $16,000. And I mean, that whole project is completed, but
wow.
With this community, everybody, they talk to each other, and it's the arts community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this was a community where I was potentially making a life, a career out of. And they sort of torched that, because now I mean, and you can't really qualify that, because I could apply to the Canadian Council of Arts tomorrow, and I don't know if somebody who's heard my name and heard the expo will be on the committee.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to quantify this kind of damage.
Yeah.
It's very hard. But I do know that, at the Sask Expo that I went to on the virtue of the comic that I created, someone from a art school out in BC offered me a job. So it's you've blacklisted me from a community that's a big part the career path that I was on or was trying to be on. So it's like,
yeah,
that's not going to happen again. And I think my second comic book is far superior to my first, and
you're just not going to be able to like sell it at an expo.
Well, then what I meant by that is like if I got a job at the virtue of the first comic book.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
My skills are improving. I mean, in that case, he was out of Vancouver, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work. I don't think I'm going to be able to move out there, but it doesn't mean that I couldn't have gotten something closer to home or more feasible.
It doesn't mean that your name on a blacklist isn't going to fucking close doors, right?
Yeah.
So it's really freaking, it's
anything that has to do with artistic pursuits, the discipline. I think it's a lot of people are just kind of hazily unaware of all the uncertainties and difficulties that particular pursuit comes with. I know I went to school for theater, which is a different type of art, but they warned us. We had a good teacher for our first year class. She warned us first thing she said, most of you will have no chance at making a career in theater.
Yeah.
And she was absolutely right.
Oh no, it's the exact same with writing fiction. The publishers that are the best as far as your chances of having your book accepted, they reject over 95% of the manuscripts that are submitted to them every year.
When we see an artist, of any pursuit that's actually working and focusing and sacrificing and bettering their skills, their craft, I wish there was more appreciation from people that, if this gets detonated, that you can't just walk down to the corner store and pick up another, pursuit of the same sort. This is a lot of investment.
Writing a novel.
I just get the sense that
writing a novel and then sending it to 100 publishers and not getting a single bite. Yeah, that's gotta fucking suck.
Well, I know
I've never had that, but it's gotta fucking suck.
I know a couple of people from back in my university days, the theater field, a couple of people who are still working in their field. Mostly they don't make a living at it, but any success they have, I know a couple of them, I didn't even really like them because they were kind of dicks, but I still offer them my support because I think it's so awesome that they're focusing on something that they love. Doesn't really matter as much that they were, questionable people in that sense,
Yeah, well, it's, honestly, if you just have yourself to look after, you can do that. I absolutely agree, and I'm absolutely for that. If you just have yourself to look after, if you don't have dependents that are depending on you, if you don't have children or whatever, it's perfectly fine to. But there's no way that I could make a living writing fiction that would support my kids. Absolutely not. No way. And so you sort of look at it. There's. It's admirable that there are people who are willing to do that, and willing to actually, live in a co-op with a bunch of hippies so that they can, do their theater thing, right? As long as they don't have, dependents depending on them who can't depend on them because they're not stable financially.
Well, I mean, you take on your responsibilities and you need to make sure that you abide by them.
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, the thing is that with art, you can actually make it as an artist. You can get grants. You have to be able to sell yourself. You have to be able to have some marketing skills and writing skills. And this is something that artists don't seem to realize. A lot of people who go into the arts, if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to do it. And I am actually very good at writing grants. So I've had like almost 100% success rate with my grant writing.
Nice.
If I write a grant and I submit it, I get money almost 100% of the time. So I imagine that this is probably fucked it up.
Now, you're not confusing.
I doubt that that's going to hold true now.
You're not confusing grant letters with blackmail letters, because I hear those can be really effective getting you money. I'm not suggesting blackmail or anything.
No, maybe they might have had a little bit of a final paragraph, a PS, if you want your daughter to get out alive. No.
Yes, I know where you live.
I know where you live. No, but it was like, and I know that's a bit of bragging, but it's like, if if I were in a position to pursue that, I don't know how this would affect that. I'm sure it would not affect it positively.
Yeah.
Because it's not just I might skate by with my name because we go in very, very different we run in different circles like that. I don't think social justice, the arts community is very social justice. But I'm sure that they aren't necessarily aware of my connection to Honey Badger Brigade. But the fact is that this community also overlaps with the community that does the comics and all of this other the stuff related to Entertainment Expo. So now that my name has been splashed over Western Canada in the news as a harasser and terrorist
and misogynist,
it's much, much more likely that somebody on a committee will see my name cross their desk and say, nope, absolutely not.
They're given the social cues, aren't they? Like any sort of media, even children's shows that you see will quite happily show women or girls slapping boys or men and never getting any sort of response. It's basically just like, no, you can be physically abusive towards a man and he will just have to hunch his shoulders and take it and then work out somehow what's upset you and fix it.
Yeah, because it's his responsibility to do that, right?
Well, the woman's emotions is always a man's responsibility.
Your emotional state is never your responsibility as a woman. It's just a wonderful thing. So
yeah, it's too bad. Most of our emotions, if you tell that to a person, that you're basically saying, oh, well, here's your living hell. You say that you aren't responsible for your emotions. You aren't the one person who has the greatest amount of ability to deal with and sort out your emotions. You're essentially saying,
and all of it. Like this is the one thing that all of this bullshit that feminists say about emotional intelligence and how girls and women have it and men don't. No. That's not emotional intelligence. Vomiting your emotions all over the place, no matter who's listening or whether they care to hear it, right? Just blurting out the all of your feelings, right? Yeah, throwing tantrums, crying, all of those things. That's not emotional intelligence. That's emotional incompetence. Yeah, no, they'll give Omar Cotter a grant before they give you a grant.
Well, they'll give a declared ice. Yeah. So again, it's not something that you really can quantify. All I know is that until I actually go for a grant and don't get it, and then I don't know if I didn't get it because of that or because for some reason between 2007 and now my grant writing skills have atrophied or some shit.
Yeah,
but
or the grant committees have changed their policies or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that the artwork that I do, one of the things that benefits me with the grant writing is that the artwork I tend to do tends to be in fields that are a bit more male dominated. So they see a female name and they say, oh, you're doing artwork that's an installation piece that involves programming. Oh, okay. Monies.
Yeah.
So it's like
yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting times, I guess. Like I said, it's hard to quantify. I do know that, the total amount that I spent on that exhibit, which I could have used for 10 years, or for many, many, many years to come, because I could scale it down or scale it up. It was very modular. But because I now can't go to the exhibition, of course, they gave me the option to go to the expo in 2 years, but I would have to basically accept guilt.
Yeah, public shaming.
Yeah, I would have to accept that I would have to appeal, is what they said.
They have to put a scarlet letter on you, and you have to walk around the convention.
Well, no, they said that I would have to appeal to the board to be let in. I'm not going to fucking appeal to their fucking board. I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, bow before us is the tone.
Yeah, essentially, yeah, and say that my behavior was so objectionable. Not only did they kick me out, but they smeared my name across the fucking press in Western Canada. And so yeah, it's like I said, I can't quantify it, but the installation itself was not cheap. I did it as cheaply as I could, but it still wasn't cheap.
Yeah. Well, this is what I mean about sacrifice for your craft.
The whole booth was like something like $5,000 altogether, right? From the
but for 10 years, 10 years, you're looking at 2 conventions. That's it's like 250. And then you might be increasing in sales each year.
Yeah,
it's
it's an investment, right? That's what it is. You mortgaged, you took out a mortgage, and on the understanding that you would have a house to live in. And then they're like, yeah, no, we're going to burn your house down, but you still, now have fun paying the mortgage.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's that financial cost, and then the unmeasurables, which are how much has this affected my chances with grant writing? How much is this? Well, obviously, I'm not going to be able to go to a convention where I got a job offer, so I'm not going to be able to go to those conventions anymore, even though my work is improving. And it's not even, it goes above and beyond the cost of the books that I won't be selling anymore, which I was fairly successful at as well.
And
so it's like,
and I'm sure that they did this in the name of diversity, right? Some kind of safety issue tied in with this concept, this nebulous concept of diversity, which we're all moving towards, which again, freedom of speech is critical towards, in the sense that you don't just want people who are different shades of skin, male and female. The diversity of ideas is essential. They're actually doing the opposite of what they should be doing if those are really their values. Actions speak a lot louder than words, right?
Those are the values.
Yeah.
I think they're just using the words to justify their own desire for power and control.
Yeah, like when every rock star or movie star gets an award, I'd like to thank God. It's like, do you all really want to thank him?
Well, I mean, I'm not exactly an atheist, so I'm not really gonna have a problem with that. But actually, I don't even know where you were going with that one.
Just the idea that people often say that they're about something because they perceive it as a popular thing to do. So I'm not saying these people don't believe in God.
I see, yeah.
I'm just saying the reason they all say it is because it's expected that this is what they're supposed to say, and so they say it.
Yeah, and in some ways it doesn't really make sense, but yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I don't actually think they use the words in the same way that people say, and I would like to thank God for this. I think they're using them to try to develop a sense of moral self-righteousness, so that they can, punch you from, punch down, essentially, from their little pulpit.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, I think we lost Karen.
Oh.
No, you didn't lose me. You didn't lose me. I was busy doing something noisy, and
I was worried you might be murdering your dog.
No, I was actually cutting some vegetables for my boyfriend, because that's something I do. He wanted some vegetables with salt and pepper, and I cut him some vegetables with salt and pepper. Tomatoes and cucumbers and bell peppers and red onions.
You're making me hungry.
Yeah, well, it's one of the few things that he can actually eat. So, yeah.
He eats it.
So he eats it. He's just like, I want vegetables. And vegetables are probably the most flavorful thing I'm allowed to eat. So can you make me some? Can you get me some vegetables? So yeah, that's what I live with. Several times a day on the weekends, maybe 3 times a day. Can you give me some vegetables, Karen? So,
well,
yeah.
I guess that's not the most hefty request that can come from someone you love.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's plenty of others. There's plenty of other, I wouldn't even call them requests. I'd call them demands, edicts, declarations from on high. You will bring me vegetables, woman. And usually I'm just like, fuck off. But, I love him, so I get him those things. And he likes, it's one of those weird things, because in so many ways we're a completely non-traditional couple, but in certain ways we're like absolutely absurdly traditional. So when it comes to who's putting food on a plate on the table, that would be me all the time. Every day is steak and a blowjob day at my house. Every single day. Maybe the steak is a pork cutlet or prime rib or something else.
I'm gonna go eat something right now. I'm not kidding. I'm going AFK to eat.
Is it a blowjob, Allison? But yeah, no, and there are certain things that I do for him that a lot of feminists would make their hair turn white and make them think that I'm demeaning myself. But when it comes to the important things in the relationship, regarding oh, where's the money going to be spent? What's the house going to look like? Who's invited over? Where are we spending the holidays? All of those things, right?
Yeah.
All of those things. It's almost entirely me deciding all of those things, and so yeah.
I personally, I just don't get that caught up anymore on what's supposedly traditional and what isn't, because it's very individuated, and the best you can get is tendencies, like trends of what men and women tend to do. It's our perceptions that kind of lock all that stuff down and make it such a big deal.
Well, I mean, with my mom, when she'd go with a buffet or something with my dad, she would dish out a plate for him and put it in front of him, and all of her friends were like, "Oh my God, you're demeaning yourself," right? And she's like, "This is the guy who follows me around, picks up my dirty socks off the living room floor, puts all the caps off the shampoo onto the shampoo and the conditioner and the toothpaste, puts the toilet paper on the roll, right? Brings me a coffee in the morning, right? And I dish him a plate of food when we eat. That, like, what's the fucking problem?"
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the times these assumptions that we have are funny. They're not serious. They should be things in life that make us laugh, or you're partners for a reason. Like, you click in your own way.
Yeah, no, and I think essentially the reason why people might see the things that I do for my boyfriend as demeaning, because I do cook all the meals and I do bring him coffee. I get up about half an hour before he does because I can't stand being around people until I've been awake for a while. So I get up about half an hour before anybody does, actually, in the house, and wake up, and I have a cup of coffee, and then I bring him a cup of coffee in the bedroom, and I wake him up, and all of that, right? And they would see that as me demeaning myself, that I make the coffee and I bring it to him in bed. I serve him coffee in bed. Oh my God, I'm such a doormat, right? When in reality, I'm like, I routinely, I'm like, "Oh, by the way, honey, I like totally scooped $3,000 out of your bank account, just FYI, right?" Because I have all the passwords to his bank accounts and his credit card accounts and everything. I could clean him out without even getting out of my pajamas. I could clean him out in that space of time between when I make the coffee and when I bring him the coffee, right? Could completely bankrupt him, right? I have total control over the finances. And none of these same people who think I'm demeaning myself by bringing him coffee in the morning would think that I'm demeaning him by having total control over his money.
Yeah, I don't. This is, again, people want things black and white, very simple. They want the world very, very cartoony, simple. And this is, I think, why it's part of the motivation for them to just look at everyone and go, "Oh, you don't fit into that category exactly, then these are the things that don't conform. They must be bad."
Yeah, no, and like, I don't want anybody on this podcast, anybody listening, to think that, like, I'm, lording over the money or anything like that. It's just that I have access to all the money. It's my job to pay the bills. It's my job to make sure things are on top of. And it's my job to let him know when he says, "I want to buy this thing on Steam," or "I want to buy a Pebble Watch," or "I want to buy this," because he's the spender of the two of us. He's the one who spends money on stuff, right? It's, he will say, "Is it in the budget for me to buy this month?" Right? And I'll 99% of the time I'll be like, "Just fucking buy it. I don't care. Just fucking just buy it. If you want it, buy it." Right? It's $100. Who cares? Right? Like, look at how much you make. And so, like, it's essentially, I'm not keeping him in the bounds of financial servitude, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I think, again,
and I bring in about a third to a half of the money. So
that type of arrangement where one person's better at kind of organizing it, or the other one just doesn't want to, where one partner does that, is, I think, very common. Where it becomes a problem is when it becomes like, sort of financially abusive, is where you're not given, if you want to ask about it, you're not allowed to ask about it, or you're told what you're going to do with your allowance, essentially. And that would be a completely different situation.
Oh God. Oh God, there's no allowance. There's no allowance in this house. If I want to spend money, I spend it. If he wants to spend money, he spends it. If either of us are overspending, we talk about it and we deal with it. And that's how we work things. It's essentially, I would never ever, like, I would essentially, like, when we spent $1,600 on a treadmill, yeah, I was the one who looked at our finances and decided that, okay, yes, it's okay to spend this money that he wants to spend on this $1,600 freaking treadmill, right? We don't have a bathtub upstairs because he bought that treadmill. But I'm willing to live with that. He's the one who is lamenting not having a bathtub. Well, serves you right. You wanted the treadmill.
It's buyer's regret. Buyer's regret.
There you go. So instead of having nice hot baths, you get to walk on the fucking treadmill. There you go.
Which makes you miss the bath every time.
Yeah, well, and I don't even use the treadmill, and I don't miss the bath because there's a shower downstairs, and I'm fine with that. He's the one who likes baths, so. An
example that would be very different, since I already told you a little bit about my ex, would be that by the end, this is for a couple of years, we each had our own account. This is to avoid fighting in front of our kid. This is how the pressure, this is how the pressure was always created. Because people often have the reaction when I just share a little bit of information of, well, why'd you let her do that? It's like, well, after you have a kid together and the kid starts becoming the pawn, it's amazing what kind of pressure can be brought to bear.
Yes.
So in my case, financially anyways, we each had our own account, and I would have to give her a check for the lion's share of the money. I was often left with so little that during the 2 weeks I would be out on the road, I would have to just pinch pennies for food and make sure I wasn't starving like in the truck. And
so she literally, you guys literally split your finances, but you are contributing more.
Well, she was at home. She would stay at home. And so the money all came from me. It would flow into her account, and she would control it. And there was some debt that we each had at the beginning. I ended up going bankrupt on mine because no money was going into paying mine off. Hers. Okay, so long story short, I wasn't allowed to ask any questions about finances for the last couple of years, or she'd go into a hissy fit, like just screaming and yelling. And meanwhile, to avoid any problems with her, because she kept accusing me of hoarding money of some kind, I let my bank statement go directly home so she could see all my checks go in, her take the money, and she still would accuse me of taking money. And I'm like having money somewhere. I'm like, well, look, you have the information right here. And yet I wasn't allowed to ask about, the finances on her side. Well, when you...
where she was spending the money.
Right. So she claimed it was for her old student loans and for her credit card that we spent on a few things, which was, that's fine. The attitude, the way she behaved still wasn't. But when you get divorced and the court wants your information, you have to give how much money you have and your assets and stuff like that. And so she had to say how much she had in her bank account. She had thousands of dollars, not tens of thousands, but she had thousands of dollars in there she hadn't told me about. I mean, I was, eating cold hot dogs and stuff in my truck, taking peanut butter sandwiches to work. It was unbelievable. That's a contrast from what you're talking about. That's not a partnership. That is a dysfunction.
Oh, fuck. Honestly, I knew there was this gay couple in Port McNeill where I used to live, and they used to come in all the time and get takeout at the Chinese restaurant where I used to work, and they would always be arguing about whose turn it was to pay and blah, 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 right? And I was like, you guys seriously keep your finances separate? And they're like, well, yeah, because, he earns way less than I do. I earn more than he does. And I'm like, okay, that makes no difference whatsoever. Okay, you decide how much per month you mutually agree to spend on, rent and utilities and all of those things, plus, getting takeout once a week and taking, his mother out to dinner and all of these things, right? What are your mutual expenses? You find out what's the raw number for that per month. You each put in half, and then you keep your separate bank accounts for what's left over, right? But you've each put in half, and then you don't have this argument anymore about whose turn it is to pay for takeout because I paid for dinner with your mom last week, right? You will actually have a joint account of joint expenses that you both feel are important and that you both feel that you should be paying into, right? And everything will come out of that one account, right? That you put an equal amount into, and then whatever's left over goes into your separate account that's your separate money, right? Like, what's the fucking problem here? And then a couple months later, they came in and they bought takeout and they paid, and there was no argument. And I was like, what's the deal? And they're like, we have a joint bank account. Right? And I was like, oh, okay. Well, there you go. That's great, because you actually turned yourselves from sole proprietorships into an LLC.
Yes,
right? That's what you did. And so now you're partners and not sole proprietors. That's excellent. That's how it should be.
It has a lot to do with trust issues, when one partner it needs control, then it's always going to come out in some way. Now, I mean, in their case, it didn't sound like it was antagonistic, but it probably underlying why it took them so long was that they weren't quite ready to release that sense of trust to the other person to merge their finances that way. That's my guess.
Yeah, well, but what it is I don't think that they ever thought that they could actually join their finances, but also keep them separate. To actually say, okay, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna discuss how much our monthly expenses are, and then we're going to say, okay, we're each gonna put in half of that, and then everything else is mine or yours, not ours, mine or yours, and that's essentially how it. I think that it would probably work out between two gay guys, right?
Yeah.
With women and men, it's more likely to turn into a situation of what's mine is mine and what's yours is ours, honey. That's essentially a lot of women seem to think that the man's money goes towards the mortgage and the utilities and the bills and the kids' hockey and all of the expenses and all of those the necessities, right?
Yeah.
And her income goes towards the new bedroom suite and the new dining room light fixture and the vacation in the Dominican Republic, right? And that's what her income goes to, is toward the luxuries. And a lot of women get really annoyed and resentful when some of their income ends up having to go toward necessities rather than luxuries.
Yeah.
That they are like, yeah, I didn't sign up for this because I didn't actually sign up to support a man. And so if any of a woman's money is going towards supporting the necessities of the household, they tend to get resentful and annoyed, which is that's just sort of an ingrained cultural thing. And I think there might be a biological element to it as well, where if they feel like there's money going out regarding necessities rather than coming in, they feel like this is a shit deal for me. Goodbye. So.
Yeah.
So why exactly do you want this separation?
Well, Mr. Stoneberg, in a nutshell, the cat put me outside. I was banging on the door for like 20 minutes shouting, Wilma!
I didn't hear you.
Oh, there's no way you didn't hear me.
I was in the shower.
Oh, she was in the shower.
The elephant's trunk was on full blast. I couldn't hear you, and besides, you're always yelling about something.
Spend my money on expensive clothes
supposed to know when to pay attention?
But when I want to get my rocks off, you know where to be found, you passive-aggressive bitch.
Well, yeah. One of the interesting things about the two the two bank accounts, though, that I thought at one point was interesting, is that there's kind of this assumption when you go into spousal support talk that the partner who stayed at home is owed money from the other one. Now, on a practical level, I understand there being a period of adjustment for that, depending on the particulars.
Yeah.
But like going on 3 years obviously is obscene. But the attitude really is that
17.
The attitude still is that I kept her at home and she gave up all of that earnings she could have had for me.
Oh yeah, no, she did it totally against her will. You held her down
Yeah.
and made her stay at home.
Right.
She didn't want to stay at home. She didn't choose that. You forced her to do it.
That's right.
And therefore you need to pay. That's so fucked up, because if you look at every single poll they've taken of working women, right? Full-time working women, 66% of them or something like that would rather work less, not more, right?
Yes.
And a large minority, 40-something% of them would like to not work at all, right? And the moment that my income from the online stuff I do, and I'm very, very passionate about what I do online, it's something that I would do even if I didn't get any money out of it, right?
Like me.
Even if it didn't, yeah, even if it didn't earn me squat, I would still do it. I wouldn't be able to do it as much. I wouldn't be able to justify dedicating the amount of time that I can to it if I didn't earn money from it, but I would still do it, right? The moment that I was earning enough money to scale back my hours at work, I did that. The moment my boyfriend got a really good job, not just the shit job that he had prior, and not the EI that he had for 9 months between these two jobs, but a really good job. The moment he did that, and it looked like financially we could make it without me having to work, that was it. I was done working. I was just like having to actually leave the house, having to actually, go and even just making sure that the laundry's done, my work clothes are clean, my apron is clean, and having to leave the house and be gone for this amount of time and come back and then arranging speaking engagements or interviews or podcasts or whatever around these 2 days of work that I still work, right, every week, that I never know what days they're going to be until the week before, right? Having to try to arrange my life around these 2 fucking days a week of work that earn me X amount of dollars. Yeah, no, it's not worth it, right? Not when I can afford to not do it. So I was just like, and I didn't even ask him. I didn't even quit. I didn't even ask. I just told him, I said, my boss phoned me today and said, well, it's been over 2 weeks since you had a shift. And if you get a pink slip in the mail, it's not because I fired you. It's because head office really doesn't think that, if head office assumes that if you haven't had a shift in 2 weeks, that you're gone, you're terminated.
Oh, yeah.
You've either quit or you've been fired, right?
Something
so if you get a pink slip in the mail, if you get a pink slip in the mail, it's not anything that I did. And just, if you do, call me and we'll get you more shifts if you need them or whatever, right? And then I spoke to my boyfriend and I said, well, okay, so my boss phoned me and said that I'm essentially probably terminated, because I haven't had a shift in like 3.5 weeks. Is that okay with you? And he's just like, oh yeah, it's fine. Can we manage? Can we manage financially? And I'm like, yeah, we absolutely can. And he's like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. Right? It was just because, it gives me more time to actually cut him vegetables and stuff too, right? So, and he likes that. He likes
he
having
likes the vegetables. Yeah,
vegetables.
It's often the little things in life.
He likes vegetables. He likes vegetables cut for him and coffee brought to him and popcorn made for him and things like that. So,
he's starting to sound a little bit like Homer Simpson.
He just. He's perfectly capable of surviving out in the world on his own, but he just likes having somebody do things for him.
Yeah, well,
and I can understand that. I would love that too.
That's what I'm talking about. Doing something nice for your partner does not mean subservience or degradation. It's just being you love the person. You're just doing something nice for them. I don't know why that's a hard concept.
And he does. And he does so many things for me. He puts up with so much bullshit from me. You just have no idea. You have no idea how much crap he puts up with from me. And like just the fact that I have 2 adult kids. I have a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old who are living in this house with us, paying each $300 a month rent, right? That's what they pay. Barely covers what they spend in utilities and food and whatever that we provide for them, right? Just basically covers their needs. And he's just like, no, that's, they're your kids, right? And then I have a 13-year-old who's a giant pain in the ass, and he and my boyfriend get along swimmingly, and they give each other a hard time quite frequently, and every once in a while my boyfriend says that he's, he'll say to my 13-year-old, I'm probably going to fart in your mouth while you're sleeping tonight. Be ready for it. Be ready for it, because it's going to happen. Oh yeah. And my kid is just like, he just laughs. It's just, so I mean, you look at what my boyfriend brings to the table and what I'm bringing to the table. I'm bringing to the table a lot of wonderful things, but I'm also bringing 3 kids, you know, who are still essentially dependent on me, right? And he's perfectly fine with that, and it's a wonderful thing, especially given that he's so much younger than me. So,
I mean, having a sense of humor about your relationship, being able to roll with punches. Again, this is probably something that I don't know what SJWs. It'd be nice to see a study done on the length of their relationships, how long they go. Because how long can you possibly hold it together through tyranny alone?
yeah, or through guilt.
Yes,
just guilting each other. You know, guilting each other, or like that sort of authoritarian. You need to do things in a certain way, or you're misogynistic or whatever, right?
What are you talking about? That's how me and Jonathan operate.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be like,
he cooks for you and shit.
Yeah, I know, but I'll be like, I'm gonna take a bath, or no, what did I say last night? I'm gonna go to bed now without you because you're playing Fallout. And it's like I'm gonna be, you know, if you didn't get from my tone, I'm gonna be angry that you're not coming to bed with me.
See, this is the opposite of me and my guy, right? Because he's like, we need to go to bed. We need to go to bed, and I'm like, okay, when you're ready. And then he's like, but we need to go to bed, right? Like we need to go to. And I'm like, I'm not really ready for bed. And he's like, we need to go. Like he's the one who's like, and I'm the one who's like, I'm busy doing some shit.
Well, you know, but it's not just me. Like if on the off occasion that I'm the one staying up, he'll pointedly sleep on the couch, and I'm like, okay, let's go to bed. He's like, I'm fine on the couch. I'm like, well, I'm going to bed now. He's like, I'm not leaving now. You've ruined the moment. You've ruined the moment.
Yeah, well.
How will this moment ever come again?
You know, so it goes both ways. It goes both ways, at least with us.
Yeah, no, it does with us too. I mean, like last night I went to bed before him. He was like, but we're watching a show. And I'm like, I'm not watching shit. I'm going to bed. Been on a 6-hour fucking live stream. I'm going to bed now. So.
Wow, it went that long, did it?
God, it was like from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until just after 10. And I was in and out the whole time.
Which one was that?
No, and they were like talking about how I was drunk. They were talking about how I was drunk in the chat, and I'm like, of course I'm fucking drunk. Who wouldn't be drunk after 6 hours of this shit? Right? Cool.
Which stream was that?
I was Bane 666 AU.
Okay.
He did an end of the year 6-hour mega live stream, and Sargon was on, and Teal Deer, and you know, like Spinosaurus Kin, and Mr. Mini Bagel, Senior Mini Bagel, and a whole bunch of other people, and including Nick Redding of Men's Rights Edmonton, who ran for City Council on the Patriarchy Party ticket, and you know, a whole bunch of other people were in on that stream, and I was just like, it was just exhausting. It's 6 hours of
bullshit.
Well, it's 6 hours of a conversation where there's 10 people involved at all times.
So was it even as organized as us?
No, not even close. Not even close.
Do you feel grateful for my presence, Karen?
I do.
Yay. I got gratitude.
There you go. But yeah, no, I was actually almost considering suggesting in the little chat on the Hangout that people enter their names when they want to speak, but then I thought, oh, this is probably not going to work out. It's not going to go over well with this particular crowd because, you know, it's like 10 people who are all like shouting stuff out, and yeah, no, it was
how could anybody hear anything like that?
I don't even know. Like,
no, it's its own style, I guess.
I'll have to go back and listen to it and see if anything is even remotely legible or
audible.
Or you know.
And we get shit for our streams.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? Okay, well, I'm gonna take off here because it's 10.
So yeah, before you guys go, could I just get you to let people know where you want them to look for you for your work? Obviously the YouTube channel. And I will put links in the show notes, but just anyone who's...
Don't ask me to sexy shill at Allison.
Okay. I wasn't even conceiving of it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, unless you want to. Like, I don't know if that's like some sort of reverse psychology.
Maybe it is, but
no, because you were talking. You wanted to have some Barry Manilow first.
I do. I want to have some like music, some porn music, while I do the sexy shill. But
yeah. Okay. Well, let me do the non-sexy shill. Just Honey Badger Radio on YouTube.
Right.
You can go there and check us out.
Yeah, and also if you want to support our work, you can go to patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. So.
It's better when you do it sexy. Don't do it you don't have to do it, but I'm just saying that.
You can all go to honeybadgerradio.com.
Well, no, there is no .com. There's none.
Okay. You can all go to www.com/honeybadgerradio.
Oh man, it's like you're singing. It's like Jessica Rabbit singing a Torch song.
There you go. Sort of. Yeah, I don't know how I figured out how to do that, but
yeah. And if you want something really, really strange and sort of bizarre, you can go to my channel. Nobody goes to that channel, but it's Gender Attic on YouTube.
It is actually a really, really interesting channel. It's got a lot of very sort of interesting theoretical content, sort of gender analysis and theory and counter theory. That I think it needs more views. More views.
I think it's something that's a little bit more dense and difficult for people to get into, perhaps.
Maybe I didn't find it difficult at all, but then I'm weird, so.
Yeah, but we're both weird.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I've really got on.
You can go to my channel, Girl Writes What.
Oh yes, that's right.
YouTube /girl user /
You can
or if you search my real name, Karen Straughan, and you'll be able to find some shit that I've done.
If you want a slightly less weird shade of weird, that is.
It's still very, very counter narrative, but it's not quite as esoteric as Allison's work, so
yes.
It's a little more accessible.
Yeah, it's a lot more accessible.
If people
let's be honest here.
If people want,
I'm not going to say that I dumbed it down.
No. I'm saying it's a good thing. I think that it's probably like my inability to bring things to where people are.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that probably my biggest strength is that I am able to take like some really fucked up ideas and just concretize them to the point where like regular people can understand them and get them. And I make them accessible. The idea is accessible to people. So
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna.
Allison, did you want to say anything about where people can find your art specifically? Do you have a specific place for that, or can they?
Xenospora.com.
Okay.
Well, they can see my webcomic at Xenospora.com.
Nice.
And I'm not sharing my pen name for my dirty books. So.
Crumb, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Power pleases you, Crumb. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.